Oh, good stuff. That's so fast. You'll just let me know, right, Alan? ALS fire police. Thanks so much.
If we talk in the microphones, it's probably about a 30-second delay. Maybe I'll just keep talking a little bit, see if it comes over. It's good. Thanks.
We're all
Sorry,
set?
Mayor. We're good to go.
Okay. All right. Welcome to the May 14th, 2025 North Logan City Council meeting. We will, tonight we are having Buzzy Mullikel and Joni Karchner participate via phone. So Buzzy is on speakerphone next to me. Emily, I believe, will be having Joni join once we hit the action items. And then Buzzy should be arriving in person midway through the meeting. So we'll excuse those two from being in person. And then we will start with a pledge by Emily, after which Kenny will offer a prayer.
Would the audience please rise? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we are so grateful to live in this wonderful city that we have, and we're grateful for the beauty that surrounds us here and for the good people and the good neighbors that we have here and the efforts that everyone makes to make this a wonderful place to live. We're grateful for this rain that we received today, and we know that it is greatly needed here, and we ask you to please continue to bless us with the moisture that we need. Please guide us this evening in this meeting that we can make wise decisions to the benefit of our community and to the benefit of all of our residents, and please help us to be considerate of all the positions and to be open to all opinions and come to decisions that are to the benefit of the city. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Kenny and Emily. I would entertain a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Emily,
Second.
second by Kenny. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. We have two sets of city council meeting minutes. The first is April 9th, and the second is the April 24th joint city council work planning commission work session. So Kenny and I are the only ones who can speak to that one in person. But anyway, I know I've submitted my changes that Scott's made. Are there any other changes that need to be made on those? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I think it's you, Kenny.
All right, I'll move that we approve the meeting minutes from the council meeting on the April
9th.
I just lost the date, April 9th, and then the joint work session on the 24th.
Okay, motion by Kenny,
Second.
second by Emily. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, let's move on to our recognition of an exemplary staff member. Today's is John Sharp, who works in the Recreation Department. He was nominated by Jesse Howe. Jesse says, I saw John Sharp out on the soccer field voluntarily picking up trash without being asked, a great example of leadership in action. He consistently leads by example during our activities and contributes to a positive, enjoyable atmosphere in the office. His dedication and attitude make a real difference to the team. Speaking personally, I don't know if I've ever seen John not smiling. So he's been instrumental in our rec department being second to none. And if you'd just join me in giving him a hand of applause. Okay. Now, tonight we have a proclamation recognizing ALS Awareness Month, and I will read that now. Whereas amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, also commonly known as Lou Gehrig's disease, is a progressive, fatal neurodegenerative disease in which a person's brain loses connection with their muscles, slowly reducing a person's ability to walk, talk, eat, and eventually breathe. And whereas thousands of new amyotrophic lateral sclerosis cases are reported every year, and estimates show that every 90 minutes someone is diagnosed with ALS and someone passes away from ALS. And whereas on average, patients diagnosed with ALS survive only 2 to 5 years from the time of diagnosis, and whereas the exact causes of ALS are unknown, and there is no cure for ALS, and whereas people who have served in the military are more likely to develop ALS and die from the disease than those with no history of military service, and whereas securing access to new therapies, durable medical equipment, and communication technologies is of vital importance to people living with ALS, and whereas clinical trials play a pivotal role in evaluating new treatments, enhancing quality of life, and fostering assistive technologies for those living with ALS, and whereas the ALS Association is the largest philanthropic funder of ALS research globally and has committed more than $154 million to support more than 550 projects across the United States and 18 other countries, and whereas the ALS Association is committed to accelerating the pace of discovery, fueled by the hope that one day ALS will be a livable disease for everyone, everywhere, until a cure can be found, and whereas Amyotrophic Lateral Sclerosis Awareness Month provides an opportunity to increase public awareness of the dire circumstances of people living with ALS, acknowledge the terrible impact this disease has on those individuals and their families, and support research to eradicate this disease. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Peterson, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2025 as ALS Awareness Month. I call upon all Americans to join in supporting ALS research, advocating for increased funding, and standing in solidarity with those affected by this relentless disease. Is Alan Alderman here? If you want to come up, we'll maybe do a picture with the council and present this to you. Council, you guys want to come down? Yes. Okay, let's move on to a proclamation recognizing the Fire EMS Department. In the interest of you guys not getting less sick of hearing my voice, Emily, do you mind reading that?
Not at all. Whereas firefighters dedicate their lives to the protection of life and property, and sometimes that dedication is in the form of countless hours volunteered over many years. In others, it is many selfless years working in the industry. In all cases, it risks the ultimate sacrifice of a firefighter's life. And whereas International Firefighters Day is a time where the world's community can recognize and honor the sacrifices that firefighters make to ensure that their communities and environment are as safe as possible, it is also a day in which current and past firefighters can be thanked for their contributions. And whereas this day gives our community a special opportunity to express their heartfelt gratitude for the incalculable contributions which our firefighters so generously bestow upon us. Now, therefore, I, Lindsay Peterson, Mayor, on behalf of the City of North Logan, do hereby proclaim May 14th, 2025 as International Firefighters Day, and I encourage all citizens to show support and appreciation to our city, county, state, and federal firefighters who protect our lives and property so diligently throughout the year, and by remembering past firefighters who dedicated their lives to preserve our safety.
All right, thank you, Emily. Thank you to our firefighters. I firmly believe that we have the best fire coverage in the valley. Sorry, Logan, right? You guys give us a little extra. So thank you to all of you. If you guys would come up, we'll present you guys with a plaque as well.
All right, one more proclamation. Okay, whereas the health and safety of all North Logan City residents are important to the happiness, prosperity, and well-being of our families and our community, and whereas North Logan City is part of the North Park Police Agency and is served by 15 officers in the agency, along with 13 key individuals within the department, and whereas these officers stand as leaders enforcing our laws and educating our community about the importance of public safety, and whereas we appreciate the extraordinary efforts and sacrifice made by officers and their families on a daily basis in order to protect us in our schools, workplaces, roadways, homes, and while recreating, and whereas NPPA officers strive to do their best to recognize, safeguard, and protect the rights of all citizens, now therefore, I, Lindsay Peterson, Mayor of North Logan City, Utah, do hereby proclaim the 15th of May, 2025 as Law Enforcement Appreciation Day in the city of North Logan, and encourage our citizens to do something special for our community's peacekeepers and to take the time to show appreciation for the risks and sacrifices our officers undertake while protecting our community.
Okay, thanks, Kenny. Likewise, I feel like our police coverage is second to none, and we just feel like our department just goes above and beyond for us. So let's give them a hand and have them come up, and we'll give you the plaque. Okay.
We generally don't do that much walking, guys.
Chiefs don't go too far away. I guess we can start with Chief Thompson with the public safety reports.
For that nice tribute. Super nice.
Well deserved.
Oh, thank you. They do an excellent job. I know we've got a full agenda tonight. Let me just, just a brief overview of April. We've only met just a couple times here in the last two months, but our calls are holding steady, pretty much on track for what they were last year. No big surprises. You do have the breakdown for the nature of our medical calls on the back of the report. Falls and things like that nature tend to still be up there pretty high in terms of quantity. No other major events to report. The one thing I did want to mention, I think a couple of the council members made it to our RF training. So it's our aircraft rescue firefighting day. It's pretty exciting. It's pretty awesome to work with that big truck. It's super fun. And one of the other unique things about our North Logan firehouse is the fact that it's first due into the airport coverage area. So that culmination of that week that some of you got to experience, we did 10 certifications, official certifications last week, with 13 recertifications of our certification firefighters. And, it's a culmination. I believe it's about 40 hours per person to get that certification. It's quite unique firefighting because just the nature of an aircraft with possible fuel or fighting fire in a fuselage. So really unique training, and we're super proud of our Station 120 crew. All of the firefighters here that work in the North Logan Station are certified to that level. Additionally, we recertify several other people within the Logan Fire Department that support that group. So truly, we've never been better trained in that discipline of our fire department. So it's just another tribute, I think, to this North Logan firehouse that does a phenomenal job. So hopefully you had a good job or a good time with that, because it's a tough job out there, and I do that all week long. So I think beyond that, just want to say thank you again for that tribute, and that's the end of my report. So.
Okay, thanks, Chief. Any questions for Chief? Okay, thanks, Chief Thompson. All right, Chief Goodrich.
Thank you again also for the tribute. It means a lot when that comes from the city, and we appreciate all that you do for us in support of our department as well. We've had a busy week, some weightier calls that have come in this last week. We ended up having 111 calls for service, and then with that, 67 traffic stops in addition. This last week too, we saw some of the weightier calls, the DUIs. We had a red tag that came in from DCFS where some kids were endangered, and our department saw that through in the one-day investigation and had those kids out of that and had the suspect arrested on that. So we're seeing, as it starts to warm up, some of the more weightier calls with the DUIs and some offenses and things like that we're trying to handle. In addition to that, our deer herd plan has been submitted and reviewed by the DWR. They have a few minor edits that I'll bring back to the City Council for review and then approval. And once that's done, we can stamp it and we can put that into motion on that. Other than that, we're staying busy with what we have and trying to keep up.
Chief, in regards to the deer, are we waiting until we finalize the plan before going and reaching out to homeowners to discuss potential? Okay.
Yes, exactly. Once that plan is approved, then we'll start the process of reaching out to the homeowners, building that list of those interested in harvesting the deer, and we can move forward with that.
Okay.
Okay, thanks,
Thank you.
Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
All right, let's move on to action items. Alan, you want to take that?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. I'll go through this very quickly because we've got a lengthy meeting. We'll talk about obviously the community center at the end of the meeting, along with water as well. Zach will provide an update for us. Sewer, we have a newer Vector truck, so they'll be doing a lot of the in-house jetting. You'll see them out on the streets in the coming weeks. They're doing the preliminary the precursor to that right now, going out and using sonar to look at our sewer lines and see if there's obstructions anywhere. And so they'll be doing that in the coming months. Obviously streets, they're doing a lot of sidewalk repair right now before all of the roads projects are up and running, which obviously like 6 East, 2850 North, 2500 North, 8th East roundabout, all of these are in full effect right now. But they'll have to start crack sealing soon before our other surface treatments start. So our chip seals, our slurry seals, those other things. So they're very busy right now. Just jumping down through, we already went over some of those projects that we talked about with streets, parks. They're just getting some things up and running right now. Obviously, they're getting into their very busy season, taking care of the parks and getting a few things like the splash pad up and running. Trails, there's several grants that we're working on right now. Obviously, the Bonneville Shoreline Trail is a 4-entity a grant that we've been working on and installing, but we've also applied for 2 or 3 more grants in the past few weeks. One we have received, that's for a section of the canal trail, We've also received, or we're applying for a grant for designs for some other removed paths along roadways. And so a lot of those trail projects are kind of in the works right now.
Alan, you kind of brushed by that, but really exciting news that we did when we were granted that canal trail funding for behind Cache Valley Hospital in Greenville. So we were really excited about that and had really great support from the school district and from Cache Valley Hospital too. So.
And that's sorry, Mayor, I brushed over that, but that is a fantastic trail element where it provides a safe route to school as well. That's a component of that.
Is it currently considered the safe route to school right now?
Yes, it's a temporary safe route to school. We worked with the school on that to provide just a temporary access through there for the next month until school is done. And obviously 6th East will be done in around August of this year, July to August. And with that grant, we did receive enough money to do a removed path on the east side of that road. So an asphalt path, 8-foot path on the east side of that road to provide that safe route to school through that area, which is fantastic, that grant from the COG to provide that. Recreation, there's 20 or 30 sports and programs and events taking place. If you just want to go to the right, it says registration opens for, and then just click on that and follow that to the right as far as you want. There are endless things taking place, and we'll go over some of the events at the end of the meeting, including the Michael Scott 5K Race for the Cure, which takes place this Saturday. There's a few more along those lines. Jumping down through cemetery, obviously, we had Mother's Day this past weekend. The cemetery gets very busy during that time, and then also Memorial Day. So they'll prep for those. And then they're also looking into the shed that will be built at the bottom of the cemetery to help with the operations there. They're finalizing a lot of those plans. Community development, Scott will go over a few of those items coming up. There are endless things that Scott's taking place, or that are taking place through the community development department. Just jumping through economic development, you'll see Rush going in, McDonald's shortly after that, down on 3100 North in Maine and on 200 West. Just jumping down through, seeing if there's anything else. We'll go over some budgetary items this evening. Library also has all of their events coming up and their summer programming. Watch the newsletter for each of those items. One key element is, I believe on June 2nd, they will have their summer reading kickoff at Elkridge Park. It's too big for anything we do here or at Greenville, so we've moved it to Elkridge Park. That's just a fantastic problem to have too many people coming to an event. So hats off to them for putting that together. And we've already jumped through public safety. I skimmed through that pretty quickly. Are there any other questions about any items?
Maybe one thing to
Yes.
note, just 8th East and 2500 North, just that will be, I heard this week, it's aimed to be completed first week of August. I think people are wanting to know that, so just,
I was also going to say, correction, the library kickoff party, just because I want to make sure we're getting the day right. Hold on, let me pull it up here. It looks like it's the 6th, or that's when I'm supposed to be putting cotton candy together for it. So
We'll look at that, make sure we have the
so
right date.
this Friday.
that's what I was under the impression, but let's make sure we have the right date
Okay.
before.
Okay. Okay, any other questions?
Just, I think you said this, the 6th East north of 18th, is that scheduled completion date is August?
Yeah, from 22nd North to 2400 North. That's mid-July to early August.
What
About the same time.
18th to 22nd?
18th to 22nd, that's not,
Sorry. Yeah, that window, that part that's blocked right now.
yeah, so 22 to 24. Yeah, that should be done well before school.
Signs have been there for a long time, so.
Yeah. It'll be good to get that project wrapped up. It's been several years of that being called a road. We'll just put it
Yeah.
in quotation marks.
It'll be a real road.
Yeah.
Ready to move on.
Okay, thanks, Alan. All right, let's get into our action items. We'll start with a public hearing regarding a proposed plat amendment of the Mahogany Ridge Phase 5 and Phase 6 subdivisions to merge lots 36 and 65 into a single building lot. The subdivision amendment also seeks to vacate the public utility easements currently occupying both sides of the adjoining side property lines of lots 36 and 65, 15 feet total, Once a public hearing takes place, the City Council may consider approving the proposed plat amendment of Mahogany Ridge Phases 5 through 6, along with the associated vacation of the public utility easements along lots 36 and 65. Sounds like we have Joni on board with us. Is that correct, Emily?
That is correct. Joni,
Okay.
can you hear us?
Okay. So Scott, will you kind of give us the background to that?
Yeah, Alan, I was going to just hop into Exhibit A. I think it's the best exhibit to show this, what this looks like. This is a fairly simple plat amendment. We have an owner who owns both lots. They'd like to merge them together so they can have a little bit of a easier footprint for a home that they plan to build. The two lots are in different phases of the subdivision, Phase 5 and Phase 6. And since there's an adjoining property line, those property lines have public utility easements. And in order to put a home in that location, we need to vacate those easements. So traditionally, a plat amendment comes to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission would be the one to review and approve, a simple plat amendment like this. But because of the easements being vacated, it comes to the City Council for state code requires a public hearing and then an ordinance to vacate those easements formally. So that's what's before you today. The Planning Commission reviewed this, has a positive recommendation, unanimous, that was reviewed last month with the Planning Commission. The process is fairly simple. Staff just needs to send out notices to potentially affected entities. And in this situation, the easements only serve the two lots that are owned by the owner. But we also send letters to each of the private utility providers, gas, power, fiber, just to make sure that there's no utilities in that area and they don't have any objections. So those letters were sent out. We haven't received any responses. So Planning Commission and staff both have positive recommendations on this request.
Okay. I will open up the public hearing and then we can discuss as a council. So these are the instructions for speaking at a public hearing. Before you begin, please state your name for the record. Speak into the microphone so your comments can be recorded. Limit your statements to 3 minutes. You're not allowed to combine or bank minutes to speak on behalf of others. Please phrase your opinions in the form of statements, not questions. A public hearing is your opportunity to express your opinions to the City Council, not a time to ask questions of or to expect dialogue between yourself and the council or city staff. Please address your comments to the council, not to the public. The council might ask questions about your comments in order for them to better understand you. In the future, note that if you have questions or need to discuss an issue, you may meet with the city council members or the appropriate city staff members before the public hearing where dialogue can take place. You may provide a written statement as your input for a hearing. You may read your entire statement or summarize it. The 3-minute limit still applies. You may provide a copy of a written statement to the city recorder. He will make copies for the city council and the written statement will become a part of the public record. However, the written submitted statement will not be included in the minutes of the meeting. So with that, I will open up the public hearing on this matter. Seeing no comments, I will close the public hearing. Council, any discussion on this item?
I assume there's no utilities currently in that easement, correct?
That's correct.
Then I'd entertain a motion on this.
I move that we vacate the public utility easements currently occupying both sides of the adjoining side properties of lines lot 6, 36, and 65 of the Mahogany Ridge Phase 5 and Phase 6 subdivisions to merge those two. Do I need to accept the facts findings?
Just the findings and the facts
Sorry,
and staff
excuse
report.
me. And in doing so, I would accept the findings of the staff report.
Okay.
I think I did it.
Thanks, Emily. So we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Go ahead.
No, you go for it.
I'll second it, but I have a question on it.
Okay. Yeah. So I was just going to say we have a second by Mark. Any discussion on this?
Did you include an amendment to the plat itself or just a vacation of the?
You know what? Let me make sure I did that right. I will re-say it just to clarify. In regarding the proposed plat amendment of Mahogany Ridge Phase 5 and 6 subdivisions to merge lots 36 and 65 into a single building lot,
Okay.
and also vacate the public utility easements
Okay.
currently occupying both sides of the properties.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Joni and Buzzy, are you guys voting on this? I did, yeah. Okay. And that was a positive vote? Okay.
Joni, are you voting on this?
Aye, okay. So that is unanimous. All right, let's move on to a public hearing to receive input regarding a proposed 30-cent per month increase to the central dispatch fee emergency response. After the public hearing, the city may consider adopting a resolution modifying the master fee schedule to increase the central dispatch fee emergency response by 30 cents per month. We've discussed this at council before. Is there any background that you want to provide, Alan or Christy? Either. Any discussion on this? Okay, does the council have questions on this?
Not before
I mean,
the
this is-
hearing.
Okay,
Not before the public hearing. no.
okay. So I will open up the public hearing on this with the aforementioned rules still applying. So that public hearing is now open. Seeing no comments, I will close that public hearing. Any further discussion by council?
The report talked about annual increases, but I'm assuming that this resolution is just a one-time increase.
Correct. That's a good clarification on that.
Okay.
It's
Thank
just
you.
this year. But the intended
There is a
increases
schedule.
is going to come each year.
Okay,
The situation stands the same as last time where this is contracted out to Logan City. We have very little latitude in the rate and control of that rate, right?
Correct. Which is why it's fantastic that Logan Dispatch has been coming out to several meetings, inviting people to come to their offices and go through this. Kind of as a way to accommodate each of the cities that are participating in this fee throughout the entire valley.
yeah, and I've been in discussions with Mayor Daines regarding the 3 million in
Reserve.
reserve. And I've been just kind of going back and forth with her about the permissible uses of that in the future, just making sure that's in writing so that when we're not in leadership anymore, that there's an understanding that that's for capital improvements for the dispatch center, so. Okay, so with that, then I would entertain a motion.
Mark, did you have any other?
I don't. I'm good.
Okay. Then I'll move that we modify the master fee schedule to increase the central dispatch fee by 30 cents per month.
Okay, that's a motion by Kenny,
Second.
second by Emily. Any further discussion on this? Okay, then all in favor, say
Aye.
aye.
Aye. Joni said aye.
Buzzy, I just didn't hear you. Okay, all right, then that motion passes unanimously. We'll move on to consider approval of a preliminary plat and subdivision improvement plans for the Storage Downs subdivision, a 2-lot commercial subdivision located at approximately 2042 North, 200 West at parcel ID 04-080-0015. Scott, can you give us the background on that?
Yeah, Alan, if you want to just open up that Exhibit A, we'll show you the subdivision plat for this request. So this particular application is a commercial subdivision. It's out on 2nd West, and it's just right behind the GMC dealership, if you can visualize where that is, so west of the GMC dealership. The intent here is it's a 10-acre parcel to be split into 2 lots, Lot 1 and Lot 2. Lot 1 being that L-shaped parcel, there you go, and then Lot 2 that fronts on 2nd West. This original application came to the city originally back in 2021 in the form of a conditional use permit. At the time, the applicant was looking to develop self-storage units on that Lot 1. And in our land use table, storage units was a conditionally permitted use. And so it went before the Planning Commission. Received an approval at that time, and then we didn't hear much from the developer. It was kind of in the COVID era. Towards the end of the COVID era there. So I think things were just a little bit slower as they were working through engineering, and ultimately a year had passed. We hadn't seen any movement, and so the city had wondered if we would expire this conditional use permit. We chatted with the applicant. The applicant had been doing substantial work behind the scenes on engineering, and so the city did grant a one-time extension on the self-storage use. But that conditional use extension Also carried with it some specific timelines that the city wanted to see this project move forward, with essentially a building permit being pulled by the summer of 2025. So we're moving towards that deadline and the extension on that conditional use permit. This subdivision is a precursor to prepare the land for development on that parcel, or I should say lot number 1. So that's where we're at. This is a preliminary plat and subdivision improvement plan, and because it's commercial, it comes to the Planning Commission as a recommending body, and then City Council as the approving body. You'll notice that there's a preliminary plat. There's also development plans in the folder. Do you guys have any questions on what this project entails and why it's before the City Council tonight?
Questions from the council?
Not on that, just it looks like the sole access is that reciprocal easement in the corner.
Yeah, it's actually fee title ownership of that lot. So it's a long, narrow access lane that will extend eastward towards long, narrow storage buildings. We did work with the fire marshal. We did study their turning radius, radii throughout that area with a concept plan to make sure there's adequate access and egress and turning radius with the emergency vehicles.
Can you zoom in on that southwest corner? Those dotted lines, that's a cross-access easement. That's what I was referring to. That's the single access to lot 2.
No, so lot 2 will take access off of Second West. So lot 2 does not have a pending development proposal. It will just be a building lot. The developer may choose to sell it. They may develop some other commercial use on that property down the line, but lot 2 will have its own dedicated access off of Second West.
Okay.
The reciprocal access there, that cross easement access, is just to facilitate off-street access between the 2 lots.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the council? Then I would entertain a motion on this.
I move that we approve a preliminary plat and subdivision improvement plans for the Storage Down subdivision located approximately at 2042 North, 200 West. And in doing so, I accept the facts and findings of the staff report.
Okay. Motion by Emily,
I'll second it.
second by Mark. Any further discussion on this? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes unanimously. We will now consider approval of a bid to construct Rattlesnake Tank, a proposed culinary water reservoir north of Green Canyon, along with the associated distribution water main lines. I mean, I think I could take this at this point because we had a marathon meeting about this, but Zach, are you going to take this today? Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. So as you see here, this is Sunrise Engineering's letter of recommendation for our bid process and our selected contractors. The statement there explains kind of how we did it. In our extensive process yesterday, we did look at more than just low price. We weighed schedule, resumes, as well as price and experience. So it was big. This is probably one of the biggest bid participations we've ever had. If Alan, you scroll down, here's just a quick summary of what we received. We had, for just the tank itself, we had 8 contractors submit. The range of price was big, and ultimately, by weighing those 3 categories as well as price, we selected the low bid, and that would be Patriot Construction at $4.6 million for the tank construction itself. And then we had 10 contractors submit for the pipeline project associated with it. So that's water to and from the tank. Also, it was a little tighter, more competitive. We ultimately went with the low bid based on that, which was Facer Excavation at $1.2 million. Both projects came in under the engineer's estimated totals. So we estimated that this would be closer to 6.5 million or 8.5 million total. It looks like we're at 6.7 for the 2 combined projects, which that was good news also, that we came in lower than we thought. Any questions on this
Have you worked with either of these people before?
Yeah, Facer Excavation, we work with a lot. They're currently doing the underground work on 2500 North and 8th East.
Okay.
They are also going to be helping with the 6 East project, and they're out of Smithfield, so they're local.
Okay.
How about Patriot Construction?
Patriot is out of Honeyville, so not as local, but still pretty close. We have not worked with them as we haven't built a tank in 20 years. So we called their references, and the only negative report we got from them was when they did a project in Washington County. And that's because the 5-hour drive delayed them they ended up adding 18 days to the overall project. But that was distance from home issues. But other than that, we only got good reviews from them.
I think one thing that I thought was pertinent here is that the subcontractor that does the tension, post-tension work, a lot of the companies use the same one that really knows what they're doing. And also Sunrise represented that they would be really bird dogging the whole project to say, you know, just to make sure that we're compliant with the bid specifications. And, you know, so I felt really good after going through that meeting that we're in good hands, both with Sunrise and with the two contractors that we've selected. And I think North Logan City benefits greatly from having so many bids, because we have, I think Buzzy's here. Because I think, you know, it makes the pricing so competitive. So anyway, I was really pleased by that.
Mayor, do we put these on firm fixed price contracts then?
I don't know that.
They're a fixed price contract with a contingency built in, a very small contingency. So we encourage them to stay very firm on their bid.
So in the event of a unforeseen overrun, how does that get covered?
If it exceeds their 3 to 5%, then they have to eat the costs.
The prices shown on this sheet have that 3 to 5. It actually has 5% built in already. So this should be our max price no matter what.
I appreciate all the work that you've been putting into this, Zach and Mayor, and everybody else on this. I'm grateful that we went with Sunrise. I feel like they've been doing good work for us. I'm ready to make a motion if the other council members don't have any other questions. Okay. I propose that we approve a bid to construct Rattlesnake Tank reservoir along with the associated distribution water main lines.
Okay, motion by Emily,
I'll second that motion.
second by Mark. Any further discussion on this? Okay, then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that motion is unanimous, and we'll see but I guess we'll just have Buzzy not participate in that particular vote, but I believe he will rejoin us momentarily. Okay, then we'll move on to consider a resolution. Buzzy, do you want to vote on that most recent one? Okay, so that is a unanimous approval of that bid. Okay, we'll move on to consider a resolution approving the use of formal eminent domain to acquire a portion of parcel 04-054-0013 located at approximately 2600 North, 1200 East for the installation of the 1200 East roadway. Alan, do you want to take this, or do you want me to run through the history of it?
If you want to start with the history, I can fill in any gaps or anything along that.
Okay. 1 second. Okay. So this began in the 1990s, where the city recognized that the JAG between 1200 East and 1250 East should ultimately be removed, allowing the roadway to go straight through from 2300 North to 2750 North. And the updates were made to the North Logan City Roads Master Plan accordingly. In 1998 and 1999, the city improved the full width of 12th East from 1500 North to 2300 North. In 2003, the city purchased the Best and Binder home at 2300 North, 12th East, so that 1200 East could one day go through the location of the home. In 2004, the mayors of Logan City, North Logan City, Hyde Park City, and Smithfield City signed an agreement that they would work collaboratively to install 1200 East as a regionally significant major collector from 400 North in Logan to the north end of Smithfield. In 2008, the Besson Binder home was demolished. In 2012, the Elk Ridge East subdivision was installed, and 1200 East was extended from 2300 North to 2400 North using COG funds. In 2014, North Logan City made updates to the North Logan Roads Master Plan. In that plan, 1200 East remained as a straight line from 2300 North to 2750 North. This approval was unanimously approved by the North Logan Planning Commission, and the North Logan City Council unanimously approved the roads master plan. In 2019, the North Logan City 5-year capital improvement plan was unanimously approved by the City Council. This plan included the extension of 12th East from 2400 North to 2750 North. In 2020, the Contrada subdivision was installed, which extended 12th East from 2500 North to 2575 North. In 2021, North Logan City applied for funds from the Council of Governments to install the remaining portions of 12th East from 2400 North to 2750 North. This application did not include curb, gutter, sidewalk, or utilities, which are not COG eligible improvements. In 2022, North Logan City contracted with Dustin Singleton to conduct an appraisal of the properties along 12th East, including the portion of Sylvia Robinson's property that was needed for the road. This appraisal was completed in December 2022, and the appraised value for the property was $37,100 for 8,806 square feet of property needed for the road. Let's see. On February 15th, 2023, a written offer was made to Sylvia Robinson. The letter was also sent to Brett and Joe Robinson, Sylvia's sons, who both expressed interest in being involved in the property negotiations. They had previously expressed interest in having the lot become a developable lot when the road went through, so that the lot could be developed at the 1-acre zoning. Consequently, the offer included the cost to install the sewer mainline and water mainline, water and utility stubs for the parcel, and curb, gutter, and sidewalk for the portion of the property. The total value for these improvements were going to be partially split with the property owner across the street. So the offer to Sylvia was $40,989.50 in total value. The city committed to help move Sylvia's parcel through the subdivision process so the parcel would become a buildable lot. The city reached out to Sylvia Robinson several times but did not receive a response about the offer. In March 2023, Brett Robinson emailed Alan regarding the offer, and let's see, and indicated that that he desired that the city pay for the installation of the road, gutter, sidewalks, water, and sewer. He asked Alan Luce for an engineered set of plans for 12th East. These engineering plans were emailed on April 5th, 2023. They did not include utilities as these were not needed by North Logan City. On May 3rd, 2023, Brett Robinson and Joel Robinson met with city staff at the North Logan City offices to discuss the offer made on February 15th, 2023. In the meeting, the city clarified that the city did not need the utilities under 12th East, so if they were installed, the cost would need to be borne by the property owners along the road in lieu of payment for their property. Similarly, the COG doesn't cover the cost of curb and gutter, only asphalt. In that meeting, the Robinsons stated that if the city put together an offer where the city put the bare minimum road and paid the Robinsons the appraised value for the property needed for that bare minimum portion of the road, they would accept the offer. On June 23rd, 2023, an offer was sent to Sylvia, Brett, and Joel Robinson that exactly followed that discussion at the meeting that took place at city offices on May 3rd, 2023. On June 30th, 2023, Brett Robinson responded to the offer, asking about if this cross-section is used, would we be required to deed the remainder at some point in the future? Let's see. Alan responded to that about potential for what would happen in the developmental process if that occurred. Brett responded that he did not think the plan was going to work. In October 23, the negotiations had stalled, and phone calls to the property owner had gone unanswered, so the city reached out to a property acquisition agent, Maureen Bachman. She has a communication log, which we will. Can Joni not hear me?
Yeah, I just have, yeah.
That is our limitation of speakerphone. We have a communication log from Maureen dating from November 8th, 2023 up until, we'll just kind of give highlights from that. But she has submitted her detailed negotiation log. But some high points from that: the appraisal from Dave Holtby was completed on October 3rd, 2024, for the amount of $46,600. Mr. Holtby offered Ms. Robinson the option of accompanying the appraiser as he appraised the property. Then a second appraisal was completed in December 2024 in the amount of $39,300 by Dustin Singleton. On February 4th, 2025, a formal offer letter was sent to Sylvia Robinson via certified mail to purchase the property. This offer included a note advising Sylvia regarding her rights from the Property Rights Ombudsman's office. Ms. Bachman spoke to Brett and Sylvia about further details with the offer. Let's see. So on March 26, 2024, Maureen indicated to Lance that the property negotiations were not moving forward and that the city should prepare a formal offer with the ombudsman packet and notification that the city would move towards eminent domain if they couldn't come to a resolution on the offer. Let's see. So a formal letter was sent on April 1st, 2025, offering a total of $42,700 for the property, notifying the property owners that they had 30 days to contact the ombudsman's office and to respond to that offer. Those are kind of, I think, the high points. We can maybe fill that in if I've missed anything from this lengthy log. Alan, do you need to fill in anything that I've missed just based on that much preamble?
No, nothing to that point. We weren't heavily involved when Maureen Bachman was involved in the property negotiation. That was primarily between Maureen and the property owner. But then recently, in interest to continue the negotiations, there have been emails going back and forth of what would be an acceptable offer. We were trying to get those in writing to go back and forth as to just to try to provide a resolution to this, see if we can purchase the property for the appraised value. So those emails have gone back and forth probably 2 or 3 times in the past 2 to 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've also been in communication with the property owners in hopes that we can reach an agreement outside of these proceedings and have been unable to do so. Okay, then let's move to the portion where we hear from the property owners in this matter. The statute elaborates that the property owners have the opportunity to speak to this action. So, Ms. Robinson, you're welcome to speak if you so desire. Okay, so I'll just kind of reiterate. She said that she sent a communication to me this morning, and that is her comment on the proceedings. Okay, so now I will turn to the council for a discussion on this matter. Questions from the council or comments?
Alan, in the notes, highlighted section, the cities had the property appraised 3 different times, all within 5K of each other. How do we determine the amount of those 3? Do we always go with the highest appraised value?
No, the appraisal just came back with they only give one value. So the appraiser comes back with a value. One was for 36, one was for 39, and one was for 45. And so those were the 3 appraisals that were done over the past 2 years.
And I guess my understanding of the question was which of those appraised values
Out of the
would
3
you
appraisals.
The last one, we spoke with the property owner, they said, which appraisal do you want to accept? And or which is the one you want us to carry forward with? And it was the 3rd and final appraisal, which was actually less than the 2nd appraisal, but that was the $39,000 appraisal from a local appraiser in the valley.
Other questions on this?
My understanding is that the resolution would authorize the city to move forward with an eminent domain, but that communication to resolve it outside of a court determination would continue.
So,
Like in any litigation, you can
Yeah.
always resolve the case.
that is correct. There can be negotiations on this, but so and maybe it's worth being explicit about this. That eminent domain, the law surrounding eminent domain, it's a constitutionally enumerated process, and what it does is it says, if negotiations have stalled, and then what eminent domain does is it allows the government entity to require the sale of that property, and then the court determines the fair market value of that property. So this is really just a gateway to asking the court to say, what is the fair market value of this property?
And to move forward with the project that has the COG funding
That's correct.
that has been approved by us and by many other legislative bodies
That's
to finish
correct.
that road.
Yeah.
I'll just throw in, Mark and I did, and Mayor go visit the property and discuss with the property owner concerns and with the irrigation risers and with other things in general. And I can empathize. I think, this is tough for everyone. And I think everyone on this body does not take the use of eminent domain lightly. Like I would love to never have to do that. So it's a tough situation. I think we all recognize that.
Well said, Kenny. I think that's absolutely true, that we would, if we were voting tonight on whether we want to do eminent domain, the answer would be no across the board. But here we are. So, but I think that's important to state, Kenny. Thank you.
In fact, yeah, so the resolution, I did look up the language here again. So the resolution is to indicate the public use for which the property is being acquired and that a voluntary acquisition of property through negotiation has been unsuccessful.
That's correct.
So, and I guess from the document that we just read through, I do believe that negotiations have been attempted in good faith and been unsuccessful. I do see that.
Yeah.
And I personally if I were the property owner, I would want to try to get every dollar I could out of my property as well. I mean, that's an understandable position. As taxpayers and as stewards of those funds, we have to make sure we use those and pay fair value, the market value, and not overpay, because that's not a proper use of taxpayer funds. And so that's why a third party in court would ultimately decide what that fair value is.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. Thanks, Mark. All right, Emily, Buzzy, anything to add?
I just would say in probably 8 years on this body, I don't know, I can't remember where we've had to use this. I think in general, we did 3100 North, worked with all those residents. The other thing I'll add is I was driving in on 10th West today, and I remember UDOT coming in and taking out all those homes. And they weren't very nice about it. They went in and they just said, this is what you're getting, deal with it. In every property acquisition case that I've been on with the city, we've always gone above and beyond what's required by minimum. So it's irritating as a council member too when we can't come to agreement, because I, like you guys, this is an option I never want to have to use. But I think we operate in good faith, and I've seen it from all of us, and I've seen it from previous councils as well. So it's unfortunate, but yeah, I agree with Kenny that I think we have went above and beyond to negotiate reasonably for the citizens of North Logan.
Yeah, thanks, Buzzy.
I
Emily?
do believe we have a responsibility to the citizens of North Logan to fulfill our promises to put roads through where they're going to be the best use for the residents. Now, again, I don't believe that eminent domain is our first choice. I would even say it's not even our 100th choice. But when we get from multiple conversations, I mean, we had a land acquisition person specifically to help, mitigate this. When they say negotiations have stalled, I gotta believe people who this is their job, that they know what they're doing. This is not what I would love to do, but I believe that the citizens of North Logan deserve people who are going to take this seriously and do what's best for them. So I believe we should move forward, and I am ready to make a motion if you guys are ready to hear it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I move that we approve the use of formal eminent domain to acquire a portion of parcel 04-054-0013 located at approximately 2600 North, 1200 East for the installation of the 1200 East roadway.
Okay. Motion by Emily. Second by Buzzy. Any further discussion on this?
One point of clarification, this would need to be a roll call vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll start with Buzzy.
Aye.
Emily,
Aye.
Kenny,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
and Joni. Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Okay, let's move on to a resolution, considering a resolution approving the use of formal eminent domain to acquire a portion of parcel 04-055-0007 located at approximately 2581 North, 1550 East for the installation of the 2600 North roadway. And I can give the background on that as well.
Either way.
Okay. So in 1978, the contracted engineer added 2500 North to the City Roads Master Plan. In June 2005, the alignment of 2500 North from 1250 East to 1600 East is slightly modified and approved by the North Logan City Planning Commission and City Council. Between June and October of 2018, Elk Ridge Farm subdivision is installed and 2500 North is extended from 1250 East to 1325 East. In 2019, the North Logan City 5-year capital improvement plan was unanimously approved by the City Council. This 5-year plan included the proposed paying for 2500 North from 12th East to 16th East. In March 2022, 2 independent engineering firms completed an update of North Logan City's water model. Both firms came to the same conclusion that North Logan City would need to install a larger water transmission line under the proposed 2500 North alignment from 16th East to 12th East that would service the entire center of the city. In June of 2022, North Logan City applied for a loan from the USDA. This loan would require that the proposed water transmission line under 2500 North be completed in 1 year after the bond was issued. In March 2023, 2500 North from 16th East to Benson, Utah was added as a regionally significant roadway to the COG CMPO Transportation Master Plan. In April 2023, the city revoked its application for a loan from the USDA due to the overburdensome requirements of the loan. In September of 2023, the city purchased the Weiberg home to install the necessary water line and the overlying 2500 North roadway. In February 2024, the Water Master Plan is completed by a third engineering firm confirming the need to install a transmission water line underneath the 2500 North, 12th East to 1600 East alignment, along with 31 other needed projects for the North Logan City water system. In May of 2024, the city applied for and received a loan from the Utah Division of Drinking Water. From May to August 2024, the water line is installed in the Weiberg subdivision, along with the north curb gutter, pit run, and road base for 2500 North from 16th East to 15th East. On June 24th, a meeting was conducted at Monty Lucarini's house with Monty and Alice Lucarini, along with Garrett Alley and Alan Luce and Jordan Oldham. They went over developmental options and purchase options for the 0.4 acres of land needed for the 2500 North, 2600 North roadway. On July 23rd, there was a meeting at city offices with Garrett Alley, Monty and Alice Lucarini, and Alan Luce. They went over several purchase options for the Garrett Alley property. The meeting lasted about an hour, and each of the options for purchase were discussed, including subdividing the property and potential rezone to get more value for lots for Garrett, purchasing 0.4 acres property needed for 2600 North, along with compensation for barns. The offer consisted of the creation of 2 additional lots on Mr. Alley's property, along with the donation of land from the city. The total value for this offer was approximately $800,000. In September 4th, 2024, a letter was sent to Garrett Alley via certified mail with 3 options for purchase. On September 12th, 2024, Alan received a phone call from Mr. Alley to confirm that he'd received the letter and that he was putting together a counter offer from his engineer and would need additional time to respond. Ultimately, no response was given by Mr. Alley in the subsequent weeks and month. On December 14th, 2024, an appraisal was completed for the property, including the outbuildings on this portion of the property. The appraiser reached out to Garrett several times to ask him if he could meet Mr. Alley on site to walk the property, to no response. The appraised value was $139,900. On May 7th, 2025, Mr. Alley was sent a formal letter to purchase this property for $139,900 with a donation of city property and a relocation of Mr. Alley's barn to that donated city property adjoining Mr. Alley's existing property. It included the ombudsman's acquisition brochure and other required documents. On March 31st, Alan reached out to contact Mr. Alley. On April 10th, he again tried multiple times to contact Mr. Alley. Let's see. And then on April 28th, the letter was sent to Mr. Alley regarding the upcoming council, notifying Mr. Alley of that this was a final offer, that he had 30 days to respond and or contact the ombudsman's office, and that a meeting would be held today, May 14th, 2025. So that's the general background of this property. Alan, again, do you want to play cleanup and let me know if I've missed anything?
Oh, that's a good overview of the events to this
Okay.
point.
Mr. Alley, if you would like a chance to speak to this, now is that time.
So Mayor, I'm kind of glad that you went over that water line deal from the state, because the last phone conversation me and you had was the reason that they needed to condemn my property or to purchase my barns was to put that water line through it. There's been a lot of conflicts with this. It is not officially, you guys are looking at this as just a regular residence. It's a business. And as far as that goes, there's 3 in the state. You brought up 10th West and how those homes just got taken. Jensen Farms down there is the only one that they didn't touch when they did this as well. So I guess in doing some research and meeting with not only some state people, but some people that sold property to you guys this year, Mr. Gilligan and a few others, and until that we have an offer that takes care of the business and my property, there will be, I guess I just don't know how we're going to go forward, because it affects the business the second that we touch those barns. And so let me quickly break this down, because I know we're limited on time, but we have Alley Ponies, which is the pony farm there. We have the ag business, which is Alley Farms. And then going further east, I also have a cattle business up at the Gibbs, which you're talking about putting the road through. So through some of the ag laws and stuff with the attorneys, we've come up with that all 3 businesses will be affected, and all 3 of those will have to be compensated for. And there will be no deal until those are made with the business. And I have only had the 1 certified letter in the mail. We have had a few meetings and a few conversations in which Mr. Luce informed me that the information from the attorneys was bad and that there would be no compensation toward the business, and they would try to relocate the barns, but I was not told they would be touching my property. They would be in the bottom of that piece that you purchased from the Weibergs. So I guess we'll go ahead and see how this goes, but once we have official paperwork and not just a certified letter, you'll be working with my attorneys on this.
Sounds great. Thanks, Mr. Alley.
Yep.
Okay. And I think it's worth, Mark kind of touched on this, but I think that the eminent domain process is in place so that where there is an impasse, that the courts can step in and weigh in on those very concepts. So the city, we're really bound to what the property appraises for. And as kind of our obligation as stewards of taxpayer dollars, we can't we can't go outside of what that appraisal says. We can't offer beyond it in good faith, right? Because that's what a certified appraiser has valued the property at. So our offers will always reflect what those professionals have deemed to be the value of the property. So comments on this from the council?
In the process, in the eminent domain process, you'll have an opportunity to present expert evidence on the value of those businesses and how they may be affected. I believe you've always had that opportunity to do that. I just don't know if we've seen expert on that, but we are bound to spend taxpayer money on fair value. And we can ask third parties in the court to determine what that number is. That's just a fortunate solution we have to fix these hard problems. We make the judges earn their money.
I guess I'm just wondering, Mr. Alley, thank you first of all for coming and presenting your position. I guess I'm wondering, from the history we read, it sounded like the city did try to reach out to maybe get a better understanding of the businesses that you're running on the property, but failed to do so. Did you attempt to try to explain that to the city before this point? Yeah.
Yeah, then we
We'd
have it on the
appreciate it.
record.
Thank you.
Mr. Luce told me that the businesses didn't matter. They were just interested in the purchase of the property. But what I brought to your attention, there are 4 properties between Smithfield and Hiram. Within the last 6 months at a state level, they tried to condemn from these people have similar ag businesses, and the state was not able to do so. And so it's not a matter of, unless the ag law states 4 or 5 different bullets, one of the bullets being, unless it can be relocated and run as it was, it is not just necessarily that they went through the same process with these 3 people within the last 6 months, and only one were they able to get, and it wasn't a condemn or even intimate domain. They ended up doing a smaller portion and buying it. The other 3, they were just told by the state. And the one was a state going in, and they were shocked that they couldn't take this, and there was just nothing they could do.
So, Mr. Alley, can I ask you, did that go through the eminent domain process with the state as well that you
Yes.
recall? Okay.
Exact same
So
process. that you
mediation
guys-
post that
Yep,
is when it was determined?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
That's good to know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Emily Budsey?
Nothing more for me to add. Actually, would like to honestly see the state weigh in on this, and I think that is the next order, right? That's the whole reason why we're doing this. But like to see, I'm not an expert in ag law, so I think their professional opinion really matters here. And if that comes back that way, then we need to figure something else out right on our side. So,
Mr. Alley, I just have one question for you. Would you at this time like to submit a potential counter offer? From my understanding, we have not received any sort of counter offer from you. Okay, just wanted to make sure I was in good understanding there.
Okay. Is the council ready to make a motion on this?
yeah, I'll motion. Motion to, make sure I've got the right one here. Consider resolution approving the use of formal eminent domain to acquire a portion of parcel 04-055-0007 located approximately 2581 north, 1550 east, I have that right address, K, for the installation of 2500 north / 2600 north roadway.
Okay, that's a motion by Buzzy, a second by Emily. Any further discussion on this matter?
It's to approve the resolution, not to consider the resolution, right?
It
That's
is
your
to approve.
motion.
Approve the resolution. Sorry, thanks, Mark.
Thanks. Any further discussion on that motion? Okay, then we'll do a roll call vote. Buzzy, Emily,
Aye.
Kenny,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
and Joni. Okay, that motion passes unanimously. We will move on to consider a resolution approving the use of formal eminent domain to acquire a portion of parcel 04-088-0002 located at approximately 933 East, 2200 North for the installation of a portion of Elk Ridge Park. I've received a lot of your emails on this topic, so I think it's important that you all understand the context in which we consider this today. I think a point of contention has been the use of eminent domain to acquire park property. So just to maybe state in the record a little bit of why we are where we are today. In the 1980s, the county purchased the area where Green Canyon sits today, which is approximately 75 acres of land, using funds from the Bureau of Recreation, which is a sub-department of the National Park Service. In 2014 and 2015, it was decided that they would build Green Canyon High School and that all of that land would be utilized for the school and commercial properties, would be swapped out with other properties in Cache Valley that met the environmental criteria for the Bureau of Recreation's outdoor recreation. So at the time, Cache County reached out to the entire valley and to see if any of the entities in the valley would be interested in swapping out these properties. Several cities expressed interest, but only Cache County, Nibley, Hyde Park, and North Logan ended up beginning that environmental process to designate parcels that would qualify for a property swap. So North Logan City and administrative staff submitted numerous properties, but the Bureau of Recreation selected 4 properties in North Logan that would qualify. In 2016, the Cache County, Nibley, Hyde Park, and North Logan officials entered into an interlocal agreement that required the cities to purchase a certain amount of acreage of the properties, which is roughly 7 acres, identified in each city that would then be swapped with the land where Green Canyon High School would be located. Since 2014, North Logan has been in earnest negotiations to purchase the required acreage of these qualifying parcels. North Logan acquired 2.9 acres on the east side of Elkridge and improved this property, and city officials have been in negotiations on the remaining parcels. So that parcel is the parcel just east of the baseball fields there, or is that the softball field there? So the other parcels, so there's parcel 2, the Klein property, which is 2.9 acres. This parcel was identified as the second highest priority by the BOR and North Logan officials at the time. Parcel number 3 is 4.7 acres. This was third priority. The city has been involved in earnest negotiations for the property for the past several years. This is the property adjacent to the dirt bike park, and is owned by the presiding bishopric of the LDS Church. And then the third is parcel number 4. It was designated as the lowest priority parcel. We have been in negotiations for 8 years to purchase this property. Let's see. So now we're at a point where we were required to purchase these properties by 2018. And I have been directly involved in property negotiations for each of these remaining parcels. And we came to the point where we're having to make good on a promise that was made over, I guess, 9 years ago. So that's where we find ourselves today. I just think it's important to clarify that this is not an effort to kingdom build where our parks are concerned, not an effort to use eminent domain in a way that that isn't justified or that is just because we want to put in a parking lot. It's something that we feel as a council, as we've discussed this, that we've been put in the position to comply with that contract that we have with the federal government. So now I can move on to a summary of our negotiations with Mr. Klein. Some of which is overlapping with the background that I gave on the BOR information. But in 2004, the Parks and Trails Master Plan was approved by the North Logan City Planning Commission. Updates included the eastern half of Mr. Klein's property as proposed future parkland. In 2013, the Parks and Trails Master Plan is updated and approved by North Logan City Planning Commission and City Council, including the eastern half of Mr. Klein's property. In 2014, an appraisal was completed for the property. The value of the portion of Mr. Klein's property that the city would like to purchase was $240,000. In December 6, Mr. Jorgensen, the then city administrator, sent a letter offering to purchase the land from Mr. Klein. In September 2016, the entities entered an interlocation cooperation agreement regarding the BOR 6F lands. and obligated the city to conclude this process by 2018. I then have a lengthy record of conversations primarily between Mr. Klein and Mr. Luce, starting in June 13, 2018. Let's see, moving through, I guess, up until, let's see, December 14th, 2024, when the property was appraised. The appraiser reached out to Mr. Klein while completing the appraisal to offer him the opportunity to meet the appraiser on site. That he declined to do so, and the appraised value of the 2.94 acres of the property came back at $714,800. On March 7th, a packet letter was sent to Mr. Klein via email with an offer for the portion of the Klein property in the amount of $714,800, along with the ombudsman's acquisition brochure and other documents required by state law. On March 31st, Mr. Luce spoke with Mr. Klein about the offer. And on April 28th, a final letter was sent to Mr. Klein transmitting the city's final offer for purchase of that parcel, along with the ombudsman's brochure and notice that this meeting would take place on May 14th, 2025. We're the third of three. So Mr. Klein, your representative or you are entitled to speak on this.
Thank you. My name is Wayne Soder.
You just wait till you get to the mic.
Yeah, then we can get our minutes all set up.
I'm used to court where I can kind of speak anywhere and it picks me up. So I apologize for that.
No worries.
So sorry, your name.
Yeah, my name is Wayman Stoddart. I'm an attorney representing Mr. Klein as it relates to this parcel. I appreciate the comments from the council as it relates to the use of eminent domain and the intent by the council to really engage in negotiations beforehand. Unfortunately, Mr. Klein doesn't really have a similar story as far as multiple appraisals being conducted and offer letters being sent early. And I think it's important for the commission to look at a couple of factors. First, under the eminent domain statute, there are various provisions of the eminent domain statute as it relates to parks, but there is a carve-out provision specifically as it relates to parks that doesn't allow for things like trails, equestrian paths, access to and from parks to be used for eminent domain. When I arrived here today, I asked what part of the park this was going to be used for. Is this going to be used for access? Is it going to be used for an expansion of the athletic fields? Is it going to be used for public areas? Is it going to be used for a parking lot? What's the nature of this park acquisition? And the indication that I got from staff was that it wasn't really clear what it was going to be used for. We weren't sure if it was going to be used for a parking lot, for an access point. What was the use of this property going to be? So I'm put in a position where I can't really advise my client as to how he should proceed in these negotiations because I don't know what the nature of the property is going to be. Right? Were this a road? Were this the piping structure that the county and the city, my apologies, that the city has spoken to on numerous occasions? Those are very clearly outlined in the statute, and so I can definitely easily advise my client, look, you have a road, it's been in the road master plan for forever, you need to negotiate with them for this. Whereas here, it's part of the parks and trails requirement, and so what part is what part? And so given those issues, it's hard to advise my client. Similarly, under 78B6503, property that's already appropriated to a public use cannot be taken unless for a more necessary public use. This property is owned by Mr. Klein, but it's owned by Mr. Klein in association with his involvement in a set of charter schools. And Mr. Klein has been working with Zollinger's Tree Farm and some other organizations locally to turn this into an agricultural farm for educational purposes, where youth can come and be involved in the farming process and help preserve this kind of agricultural lifestyle. He's been audited by both the state of Utah and the state of Arizona as it relates to his charter school businesses. He's in good standing with both, and he's prepared to submit that documentation. The final context that I think is important for the council is it's not the position of Mr. Klein that negotiations have per se stalled. Mr. Klein is willing to enter into more discussions in light of these facts if he knows exactly what the park is going to be used for. I can advise him as to the necessity, the likelihood of success of the eminent domain action, whether to proceed through that and incur attorney's fees, force the county to go through an expensive litigation process or not. Similarly, it wasn't until recently, post-COVID pandemic, that he was able to begin these interactions with Zollingers and other local organizations. Put simply, this isn't the case of a road that's been on a master road plan. And I have empathy for North Logan City that it does have these agreements as far as land trades and transactions that it may have agreed with in the past that it could be bound by. But our position, or my position, is that my client would love to negotiate and I would love to be able to enable him to do so. I just don't have the information to be able to reasonably advise him. It hasn't helped that my client is a resident primarily of Arizona. Most of the correspondence goes to his house in Arizona. There's been some issues where if he's up here, the correspondence is going there. And that's just a reality when you have an organization that's chartered in another state, and that's the contact point for the ownership, and it doesn't always get through. But I will also point the council to the fact that the first time my client received any communication related to pending implementation of eminent domain was in March of this year. That's vastly different than the other cases that have come before the council as to when they received their notices and when those individuals were aware that eminent domain was a potential threat. So I would just urge this council to, and I appreciate the fact that the council has expressed this hesitancy, because I feel that we could move forward in a way that would be much more amenable to a cooperative resolution rather than going down the eminent domain forcible takings route. So I would urge the council to vote nay on this resolution. My office is happy to facilitate. We're much more accessible than Mr. Klein as far as communications, and I would be willing to commit my office on that behalf to moving this forward in that fashion.
Sorry, I still didn't catch your last name.
No problem. Wayman Stodart, ma'am?
Stoddart, okay. So I guess my question is, you acknowledge, and I think Mr. Klein in this log acknowledges that he did receive that March 31st, 2025 letter indicating that he has 30 days to respond to what is our final offer. I guess what I'm wondering is what happened in that interim period that prevented, reaching out to the ombudsman's office or reaching back out to North Logan City?
Certainly. My understanding from my client, and I don't quite have the call logs, I was retained on Monday, so I haven't really had an opportunity to go through everything, but my understanding from my client is that he did reach out to Mr. Lucy. He was asking and inquiring specifically. There had been a discussion about a potential partial property trade that was at issue. And that Mr. Lucy indicated that he would be getting back to my client, and then my client doesn't have any notice on his end that that communication ever came back. So whether there was a miscommunication on my client's side, or again, he's been in Logan, the correspondence was going to Arizona, sometimes he's in Arizona, and so calls are going to a Logan number. I don't know exactly where the communication breakdown occurred, but my client's position is that there was an effort to communicate within that 30-day period. As to the involvement of the Ombudsman Office, I think my client was hopeful that he would be able to resolve this without resorting to a legally adjacent or administrative process like the Ombudsman's office, and wanted to avoid retaining counsel. He has since been apprised that counsel may be necessary in order to help him navigate these paths, and that's why I'm here today.
Would he like to present a counteroffer to what we have suggested at this time?
My understanding is that he is in the process of preparing a counteroffer, and I will be assisting him in doing so. But yes, that would be the next reasonable step, would be for him to present a counteroffer.
So that's good news for me to hear. I think that maybe you can answer, Mr. Sauer, thanks for the good overview here on behalf of Mr. Klein. One issue that I'm having trouble with is in December, a third-party appraiser just doing his job was told, and again, this is his quote, right? So maybe he misunderstood Mr. Klein, but quote, would not allow me to enter the property, and indicated he is not interested in selling the land for the project. So I'm hearing now that we may be able to get back to the table and actually, negotiate through this for fairness.
Yes, and I think the important distinction to be made there is my client was not aware, and I don't mean to sound negative when I say this, right? But it is very different when you're negotiating and you feel like you have cards versus when you're negotiating against what you feel like is a power of eminent domain, right? When there's this potential of the land being taken regardless of the nature of the negotiation, I think that materially shapes a willingness to negotiate in a way that may not have previously been.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I have to be honest, this council is dealing with a lot of hard things, and part of that is because our growth is the biggest it's ever been, right? The previous two issues here were because of growth. This one, not maybe just speaking for myself, I feel like my hands are tied because of previous agreements that none of us were part of. So that this is hard for us. We want to see a fair compromise here, something that we can come to solution to. So I'll just leave those thoughts for my
If I
colleagues.
can respond in one small way to you on that, I understand that your hands are tied by those previous agreements, but they're equally tied by the enforceability of a eminent domain action, right? So if we proceed down the eminent domain trail, the question still is this an appropriate use for eminent domain? Whereas if we pull it out of the eminent domain world and back into a negotiated sale, you remove all of those overheads, right? And we're not going to have conversations about, well, is this a trail or is this a park? Is this a this or is it a that, right? And instead we can just simply have a sale conversation. And if we have to go back down this road, we can go back down this road.
I'm under the understanding, and please correct me, Mayor, if I'm wrong, that at any point after this meeting, if he would like to submit a counter offer, I am happy to entertain a counter offer and start up negotiations again. This is not we never want to talk to you again. We don't want to potentially agree. I would love to come to a resolution that feels fair to him, that feels that we're being fair to the citizens of North Logan, and we're assessing property values, fairly. I don't feel like financially we can just give you whatever you feel like your property is worth. I want an appraisal. I want something to go with it so we can start a negotiation in good faith again.
And I think to that point, that what an eminent domain resolution does is it allows the city to file an eminent domain action in court. And so anytime between the authorization of that resolution versus the filing of that court, there is room for negotiations. And I guess you've come into this kind of late to the game, but my concern is that there has been no indication of a willingness to even respond to an offer for this property. And I think the other part of this is that if there are specific requirements surrounding the use of the property acquired by eminent domain for parkland, then I think the city would be in a position where we tailor the use of that parcel according to the requirements of the law, not like we don't have the option at this point because of the BOR contract to not acquire the property, but we certainly will be mindful of those parameters in the actual implementation of that property.
Mayor, one point of clarification, just regarding the design of a park or that the city doesn't have an intended use. The city has a design. We've talked about this, that it has a pavilion, it has a restroom, and it has parking. That's why I see it on that south side of the park. We discussed this parking with your client, with Mr. Klein.
I don't have any record of those reports. So if those have been circulated,
Yeah.
I will happily give my email to everyone on the council here publicly today. And I will take those and consider this my on the record notice that I will be receiving those documents, and I'll be getting back. To speak to your point, Madam Mayor, as well as your point, Councilwoman Smith, I understand that today's resolution is an initial step, but I think that the freedom to negotiate of that initial step is important, right? Just like in December, my client wasn't aware that there was the threat of eminent domain, and so that may have shaped his decisions there. Similarly, if a resolution is passed today, so that at any point after today, the council or the city can file a lawsuit, then my client is negotiating with a gun to his head. And so I guess our request to you would be being here today, demonstrating on the record willingness. I mean, obviously, if there's no response within 30 days or 45 days or 60 days, whatever the council wants to do, the council can retable this for another eminent domain proceeding and then move forward in that fashion. But I would just urge the council, especially in light of the very valid conditions and concerns the council has raised with the power of eminent domain and what it means as far as the interactions between the citizens and the city, to allow my client a chance to negotiate with that eminent domain knowledge without the immediacy of an eminent domain threat.
Okay, I wanted to speak to that very quickly. So what about our interactions, if we're going to take this record right here, was unclear when we started these negotiations in 2018? What about us was unclear? What about it was unclear in 2002, in 2020, in 2019, in 2024, when he didn't let the appraiser on, in 2025, when Alan specifically, Mr. Liu specifically stated that asked Dale if he would have any interest, if he would like negotiating for his property. He said no. At what point are we supposed to continue a negotiation with somebody who has told us no that many times?
Certainly.
It is disrespectful to the citizens of North Logan, to the taxpayer dollars, for us to continue this without moving forward with this. Again, I would be happy to accept an offer at any moment and start negotiations. But at this point, every piece of evidence that we have received indicates that he is unwilling to do so.
If I may address that. So in the law, we have a numerous set of requirements as far as communicating specific rights and privileges as well as consequences for failure to abide by those rights. Miranda is the most famous of these warnings. There is a statutory warning enacted under 78B 6505 for exactly that reason, right? The communication may have existed that indicate we want to buy your property, but the reason that the formal language in the notice that was sent in March of this year exists is to convey that formal reality in a way that the legislature and the statutes have found most effectively conveys it. And so my understanding, and again, I can only tell you what my client has told me, is that the reality of that pending action is encouraged him to come today and authorize me to convey that willingness to try to engage in this process. I'm committed to assisting as much as I can in the engagement in that process. But I think that the difference, to answer your question, Councilwoman, is that in 2024, he wasn't aware of that pendency. In 2002, he wasn't aware of that pendency. The reason that the legislature has established that specific set of instructions to go out in these letters is because it recognizes the importance of conveying those rights, privileges, as well as consequences for non-action. And that's what he's responding to today.
So on that note, Alan, would you mind speaking to kind of, I think this is the acquisition that I've been least involved in. So if you could speak to that, I would just love to hear kind of your assessment of I guess the immediacy of this, and then also just, I don't know, what you've seen as far as willingness to come to the table on this.
Yeah, absolutely, Mayor. So if you just look through the log from June of 2018, I took over as city administrator. The previous city administrator had been involved in communications regarding this property and the opportunity to purchase the property or even swap land for the property. So from June, 2 or 3 times a year of each year as it goes through this, up until this last year, each of those years I would discuss with your client. We would go over any options available to purchase. Flat out purchasing for the property with $1 really just never seemed to materialize. And so what we started talking about was, are there properties that we could swap? And so over 6 or 7 different conversations, we talked about those properties. And each of those conversations entailed the next time your client was in town, he was going to go look at those properties, and then we would talk about those properties if they were viable for a swap for that land. I thought that was a very fair offer. And so we went over that. But out of those 6 or 7 opportunities, he wasn't ever able to visit those properties or come back with a counteroffer regarding those, or to accept any one of those 5 or 6 properties I gave him as an option to select. And so then it became an issue, will you accept a dollar amount again, or will you accept any of those properties? And again, the answer was no. And so that's when we had to move forward with another option at that point.
So,
I have a moment.
sure, of course. I'm not there yet. My extremities are freezing. That's not there.
So my client has informed me that part of the reason why he didn't participate in continuing forward with those negotiations is he understood that because of the educational nature of this, eminent domain wasn't really an option, right? So he believed that the educational nature of this precluded, and he recounts that he may have had some correspondence or some inclination from previous council members that they wouldn't proceed on closing down
So
academic.
I'm going to stop you right
education
there. When you talk about closing down an educational entity, what educational entity?
Yeah, what's the
I'm
name?
honestly asking you because what I see is an empty field.
And also, when I looked up for Cache Valley charter schools that are registered currently in Utah or have been registered from 2017 to 2025, the only ones I see are not his.
Right. So he has a charter school organization registered in Arizona. That's the individual who owns the parcel. So the record owner is that nonprofit LLC registered in Arizona. I would tell you what it was, but my email Wi-Fi isn't working for me to get it to. So what's the name of your charter of your Paramount Education Studies?
And I guess what I'm asking to get it's not that I'm asking what's the name. What I'm asking is, does me declaring something, like, could I do something similar in a parcel that I own and I say, this is a charter school with no structures there and with no students?
Well, so hang on.
I think, go ahead. I'll let you.
So just to briefly kind of pull this back, I don't know that that would prohibit you from exercising the power of eminent domain. And I don't know that that's my client's position either. But what I'm trying to answer for you is what's different now than it was in 2024, 2022, 2020, 2002.
And that is his
And
understanding.
the difference is that he is aware that regardless of that status, the name, whatever other provisions are there, eminent domain is something that's willing to be moved into. So I'm not necessarily speaking to the credibility of that analysis. That's something that a judge would have to do. I'm not necessarily speaking to the legal implications of that analysis. That's something the judge would have to do. But the question that was being put to me was, what is different now? And that's the answer, is that he's more aware that eminent domain is a pending real concern, regardless of the fact that it's licensed under this charter school agency that's out of Arizona. If that makes sense.
So to clarify, I want to make sure I'm understanding this very clear. Mr. Klein is asking us today to pause an eminent domain decision so that he can come up with a counter offer that he has been unwilling to provide us since 2018. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so
Mark, you said you
council,
had some, Mark had some comments.
I'll defer to Mayor. Go ahead.
well, I guess I think we're at a point where I'd love to hear the council's thoughts, whether you have a motion, one way or the other, to move on this.
I have some questions, not necessarily for the property owner, but just mostly related to the Bureau of Recreation
Water?
6F agreement.
Sure.
But I don't want to get ahead of like.
No, I go for it, Kenny. I think now's the time.
Okay, so in the document, we talked about property acquisition, the 4 priorities that were set. How were those set and by whom?
The BOR.
So they were set when they submitted the properties, and I wasn't involved in this process, nor was anyone else here.
You say they, who's they?
The city.
The
So the
city
city
back
put
in-
together,
Back for when it was done.
they put together an application of properties, and they had about 7 or 8 properties, or up to 10 properties that they submitted for approval. And the BOR came back with, these are the only 4 properties that qualify, that meet these criteria. I don't know what those criteria are, but they met certain outdoor elements of the Bureau of Recreation, outdoor recreation. And so when they came back, then they said, these are the priorities the city should go after according to this document and agreement. And then the interlocal agreement was signed by Cache County and those other 3 cities at that time, obligating the city to move forward with that.
And so BOR had set those priorities, given some criteria that.
The environmental study, is that correct?
Yeah, there were other properties that the city submitted, several properties that the city submitted where one was on the edge of a gravel pit, so it did not qualify. One had at one time been used as the city dump, which was near that couldn't be used in the future. Other one was the city cemetery. None of these qualified.
Okay. And sorry.
Yeah, no, keep going, Kenny. This is you.
So we are actively feeling pressure from BOR because we're now 7 years behind.
Yes.
When we were supposed to have done this land swap.
And the other cities and the county.
Okay. So help me understand what happens if we what are our penalties? What
That's
kind
my
of
question as well.
obligations are we under if we don't?
Severe. It's
do
payment
this
back of anything we received to this point, and then we have to start digging into that. It would be hundreds of thousands of dollars that we would have to pay out of the city's general fund that were obligated by those other individuals that were serving in North Logan City at the time. We would have to go back and pay those back.
In addition to penalties and
addition,
fees, which would
so
likely
it's going
be
forward.
assessed, like over multiple time periods.
So we would be obligating the North Logan City taxpayer to, I didn't catch the ballpark figure. I know we don't have exact numbers, but
I'd say $200,000 to $300,000 up to this point has been expended.
if we don't do this, but I guess the other thing that's not totally clear to me is, I know we're 7 years behind, but now that it sounds like we might have the ability to negotiate here, like if we table this for 30 days and then had a 30-day limit to where we bring it back up again in a meeting next month, does that affect this timeline or the BOR's expectations at this point?
I think that's more of a question.
Well, I mean, I think it's just, you're rolling the dice as to like, is this going to be, are we going to be caught, essentially? I mean, that's where we are.
Yeah. I hear ya.
And I think that's the position that we're in, is that
Yeah.
we're kind of between a rock and a hard place.
I guess I'm just wondering, what's the difference between 7 years and 7 years and 1 month?
So you know what the difference is to me? And I'll tell you this, it's the fact that Mr. Stoddard said that his client, Mr. Klein, didn't realize that maybe eminent domain was a potential here. And so now that's why he's willing to negotiate. And here's the great thing. We can continue to negotiate while this eminent domain continues. Because in my mind, somebody who is unwilling to negotiate since 2018, who's unwilling to even come up with a counter offer, I highly doubt 30 days is going to change the needle for him.
That's a good point. Help me understand. If we do pass a resolution to exercise eminent domain tonight, how do negotiations proceed from there? At that point,
Well, I
involving.
think one thing that we could do is say we aren't going to file the eminent domain suit with the court. Because that's what,
Immediately.
right, like, so that we delay the filing of that suit and say, if negotiations happen and we reach a resolution of that, then we withdraw the resolution.
So I didn't realize that, Mayor. Could we potentially pass a resolution that has a timeline on when we might submit that legal case? In your legal opinion, as a lawyer?
I am not going to weigh in my legal opinion, but
I don't know if I'd do that.
know,
I think
so let
I'd
me
follow the statute.
what was that?
I think I would follow the statute. And in my opinion, one of your comments was that you hadn't seen a fleshing out of the grounds for the eminent domain. Let me just speak to that. You may, in fact, prefer to see the complaint drafted before, if that's the heartburn that your client has. And that would then tell us to move now, not move later, and give you that information now and not later. So today, if the resolution were passed, we're not filing the complaint tonight. It just authorizes the city to move forward. And you could always have parallel tracks of letting the court decide and letting the parties come to a resolution. And I think that we'll come to a resolution when both parties understand the significance and the realities of life. And that would, in my mind, include adoption and approval of the resolution.
To this evening?
To this evening.
So help me understand what is the advantage of adopting a resolution this evening with the contingency that we wouldn't submit the.
I wouldn't add that contingency.
Oh, you wouldn't?
Because
No.
the reality of it is that the city attorney and the city and the mayor will continue to work through this on a litigative track, which includes conversations and settlement negotiations with fine.
But does a resolution restrict open negotiations in any way?
No, not a bit.
I think Mark hit the nail on the head, and then the city has never gone through this process of eminent domain, but any other litigation that we have gone through, the court will ask you multiple times throughout the proceedings, are you looking at settlement options? Are you continuing to negotiate throughout the entire process?
Very much so. The court is a last resort fixer if you can't fix it. But the fact that you authorize something is different than starting it. And the fact that you start it doesn't mean you have to take it to conclusion. You always have an opportunity to find a meeting of the minds and a resolution.
And I guess
Always. With Mark
maybe
more.
just to extend that, Kenny, I think the issue is that it's not a 30-day delay necessarily unless tomorrow we send you that identical packet and say you have 30 days within which to, like, we have to,
Yeah,
there's a
start over.
there's a very high bar of notice for this. And so and I think we would be bumping it to our second June city council meeting just by virtue of that notice requirement plus all the documents. And so I tend to agree with Mark that I think it's two ways of going about it. And I think that either way you have eminent domain looming over the negotiations, like that is something we can't claw back necessarily, at least not at this point. But I think the drawback of waiting on the eminent domain resolution is that we start at the beginning again.
I see.
And
So-
we are always ready to talk a solution.
Agree.
And I'm grateful that you're here and will help us in that process.
I would just, and I will end on this, I will rest, I'm not trying to dominate your
Understand.
time or anything else. I would caution against thinking that there's no additional barriers presented by litigation. Litigation presents numerous barriers. For example, my client can't contact directly through you. It has to go through attorneys once both sides are represented. That's a requirement under the Code of Professional Conduct. I can't let my client communicate directly with the city, and I'm assuming that your attorney will tell you the same. There are timelines that have to be established as far as service, proof of service, obligations of discovery, motions to dismiss, etc. I don't know that there is a material difference between enacting this today and what that litigation process would look like, and 30 days later, not necessarily from the city's obligations. I'm not privy to the city's obligations, but from what it means to file a complaint, I don't know that a 30-day timeline is a sacrifice given my client's representations to me as far as his willingness. But again, those are representations made to me. I understand that the city has had a long history with Mr. Klein, and maybe you have other concerns that have been duly noted on the record. I would just want to keep things as far away from the litigation and the costs associated with it as possible.
Yeah, and in my mind, Mark, similar to you, I think that in my view, it's the litigation begins in the filing of the claim.
Correct.
And so I think we understand the weight of that step. Once we file that claim, it triggers court involvement, court deadlines, communication through counsel, all of that. I think where I'm more willing to do that is where we're in this position where we have tried in every way that we can to communicate with Mr. Klein, and we've kind of hit up against a brick wall. And that's not even mentioning, well, I think we have some frustration behind it, and I think we're hopeful that your participation in this will lubricate those discussions, but I think we still have some concerns about it.
And I am new to this, so I will defer to you on that history.
Fair enough.
Yeah, thank you,
for
and I
your time.
appreciate your position.
While you're at the mic, can I just, and I'm sorry, I'm an engineer in a lawyer's discussion here, so I'm having a
I've
hard
had plenty
time
of
following,
conversations
but
where I'm a
better
lawyer
at
in
it.
an engineer's discussion, so I know that feeling well.
so you would like to, I guess if this resolution still allows for free and open negotiation, you would prefer that we not pass the resolution still because, like, does the passage of this resolution equal litigation?
No.
We
To-
have to
A passing of this resolution starts a 14-day prohibition on litigation. So under the statute, the next step would be no less than 14 days, a complaint could be filed with the district court seeking to exercise the power of eminent domain. It does not necessarily begin litigation, although, and obviously I'm not going to disclose private correspondence between myself and my clients, but a general tendency would be that once that process is initiated, the discussion between myself and my client does at least begin to become shaped by the threat of potential pending litigation.
And are you saying the point at which the claim is filed with the court?
No, once this resolution passes, my advice to my client has to be in contemplation that any day after 14 days, a complaint could be filed.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, my request to the commission tonight would have been something along the lines of calendar this, continue this for the next available date on the city's planning meeting. By continuing this, it gets rid of a lot of the notice requirements because it's a continued hearing. It's not a new hearing. And at that point, if my client hasn't engaged in the process, then I expect the council will just move forward with the eminent domain proceedings at that point.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you feel like the negotiations would require longer than that 14-day period? Because, we're operating within that kind of buffer period where the city cannot file a claim and initiate that litigation. And I guess I don't hate having that pressure of time is of the essence in these negotiations.
A lot can be done in 14 days. 14 days is not a lot of time, is kind of how I would phrase that.
And I think
so on the one hand, yes, but on the other hand, I know that my client was on a red eye this morning to fly up to address this. And so he left quite a few things in Arizona unaddressed.
And in 10 days, if nothing's happened, that may change what happens on day 14.
Right.
So I would think that earnest engagement after day 1 delays a filing of a complaint beyond day 14.
Certainly.
I don't think we're itching to file the complaint. In fact, I think that, I have absolute faith that you will help in these negotiations. And I think the city has every intention of acting in good faith on our end to say, look, if there's any way to settle this outside of filing that eminent domain complaint, then we'll do it. So
that goes for all of the ones that we've got. If Mr. Alley, I would absolutely love to hear a counteroffer. 100%. Absolutely love to hear a counteroffer. Would 100% entertain it. This is not something I would like to do, but I feel like it is something we need to do to protect North Logan citizens.
Kenny, did you answer all of did you get all your questions answered?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think I have any other specific questions. I guess I still lean towards, like, I'd be willing to bet the BOR would be okay with us taking a couple more months on this if we really did have the ability to negotiate.
I'm not willing to risk potentially never getting to get grants from the National Park Service again on that. We have been so slow on this. I'm amazed they haven't come after us already.
Yeah, I work with the federal government all the time. It doesn't surprise me at all. But
you say that. What about Doge? I mean, if they're going to do an efficiency, they're going to be coming for us eventually.
So, yeah, I mean.
Unless the city has any more questions for me.
Oh, yeah.
No, thank you. Please, sorry.
Yeah. Thank you. Actually, thank you for being here.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Do you see, my concern is that we have delayed long enough. And quite frankly, while none of us are responsible for making the decisions that got us, we're not at fault for saying, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to change all this land. We are now responsible for handling this. And this is the best way forward, I see. As much as I don't think any of us want to do eminent domain. This is never my first choice.
When is the next meeting?
June 4th.
Can we go about it this way? Can I have whoever wants to make a motion as a temperature gauge for the council, just kind of so that because I think we've raised all the issues. Emily, Kenny, whoever wants to, let's make a motion so that we kind of can move this discussion along.
I'm curious. I'm actually very curious.
You want me to make the motion?
Yeah, only because I'm really curious to see where you're at in this.
Well, my motion would be that we table this and then give a 45-day window and then readdress it again. Or 30-day window. Sorry, 30-day. Okay. 30-day window and then.
Or you table it to the next meeting.
You could continue it, right?
Continue it to the next meeting.
Okay, so I need clarification. I thought if we tabled it, it does reset that clock that was like a 30-day clock.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's back.
Man, we're really making him run back and forth. Sorry.
The wording, I think, to get at what the council is looking for would be to continue the hearing to the next available or to a specific date certain. That's the language that would get rid of the need for a new notice, set of requirements for another letter and packet to be sent out. And just for the record, in the event that the county does continue this, I'll accept service of all of that via email on behalf of my client and waive formal notice requirements. So that meaning you wouldn't have to reissue.
Continuation.
Our next meeting is
June 4th.
Oh, that helps. Thank you. So I guess so. I will submit a motion then that we continue the discussion, continue this issue.
Continues
and-
this hearing, I would say.
Continue this hearing.
Continue this hearing on the June 4th city council meeting.
And then I'll second to allow for more discussion.
Okay, so motion by Kenny, second by Buzzy. Discussion on this.
Do you have any concerns, Alan, about how it affects the service or notice of what's?
I think that's kind of unfair, although Alan's
Just ask
law
if you do.
degree is rock solid. I think that's a
I
tricky
almost,
one.
Alan.
I think that's a lawyer question, honestly. Like, I think we're kind of in that
Okay.
realm.
Hmm.
A lawyer that
So Mayor, do you have any concerns about that?
I do. I mean, I'm looking at the statute right now, 78B-6-505.5, and it doesn't really, I mean, it doesn't really speak to that, right? Like it's like make a decision, once you've decided to go down this path, here's how you do it. So I think we're a little bit on shaky ground in terms of that makes sense
I
to
would
me.
hate to blow up the issue and find out in June.
Well, that's my
would-
concern is that
yeah.
we get into an eminent domain proceeding and they're like, sorry, you fail on the notice requirements or you fail on the procedure because it is such a strict procedure. And so that's my concern is that I think Mr. Starr's representing that in good faith. I think as an attorney, it makes me a little nervous.
I think that you as the mayor will direct the city attorney when to initiate the complaint. You've been
Correct.
here today, and I fully expect you to use your discretion to time it right and to
Yeah.
give an opportunity for the parties to reach a resolution before you would have council file a complaint.
And then
Yeah.
So we
any-
accomplish everything we've talked about today and do it complying with the ordinances we've complied with so far, with the notice requirements, and then give our resolution to say, go for it and go forth and try to get this resolved. And if not, you have our permission to go and file a proceeding.
So how would Mark, this is like I'm in court, which has never really happened, so it's kind of.
Are we
interesting to
having
listen
still a
to, but-
discussion on the motion or are we?
Well,
No,
this is part of the
discussion
discussion on the
on the
motion, yeah,
motion.
because the question I have is your understanding of, let's assume good intent here, counteroffer comes in, this body is notified. Do we have to have an official hearing or a meeting ourselves to accept that? Can we do it
No.
electronically? Are those options available so that we don't stall beyond that?
Yeah.
No.
That's what I was.
Okay.
No, I mean, are you saying, so if we have
We have no
so
negotiation authority for the city, right?
what was that?
We,
Well, I
as a
don't-
city council, have
Not
no
as a negotiation, just a
authority.
true offer, whether we accept or decline.
Yeah, so I have negotiation authority and Alan does, but the council approves that, just like the bid
Just like we've done
process,
before.
right?
Okay.
Yep.
So, okay, so that's a discussion on Kenny's motion to continue this to June 4th.
Okay.
And what I would hope would happen was that we would have an offer to discuss in a closed session the next time we meet.
That would be fantastic.
And that would be awesome.
But we wouldn't have to wait.
It
till
wouldn't
they're
have
correct.
to,
We could
no, we
entertain
could, I
it
mean,
sooner.
if they present something and you negotiate it and you want to come to us to approve, that means we can talk about that next meeting.
Yeah, well, I think that's what we're all working
Yeah.
toward, right? Is that we get a counter offer, we discuss that, and then we approve it formally at the
Yeah.
next meeting.
And that was, I mean, it was the revelation that was even an option on the table that kind of led me to make that motion in the first
Sure,
place.
and
That
I
didn't show
asked
face.
you to make a motion, so you're doing great. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's exactly how this is designed. But I guess, like, Mark seems to be speaking against the motion, like,
I think that it creates issues that we don't need to create
yeah,
and doesn't give us anything that we don't already have by approving the motion.
I think that's
I'm not a
exactly
lawyer,
right.
and I very much agree with Mark here, so.
Hey, I'll take it.
Okay, then let's call for a vote on Kenny's motion, unless you'd like to withdraw that, Kenny.
I'll leave it on the table.
Okay, so I'll call for a vote on that. I guess we'll do
Roll
a
call.
roll call, even though it's not a motion on eminent domain resolution, though. So
Be safe.
I'll do roll call. Buzzy?
No.
Emily?
Nay.
Kenny?
Aye.
And Mark?
Nay. Sorry.
Okay, and then Joni? Okay, so that motion fails. Can I get another motion?
Okay, I'm gonna motion that we approve the use of formal eminent domain to acquire a portion of parcel 04-088-002 located at approximately 933 East, 2200 North for the installation of a portion of Elk Ridge Park.
Okay, that's a motion by Emily. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mark. Okay, so discussion on that motion. Anything else to say?
Kenny, I do hope through this process that we're not going to see this issue again. I really do.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, it may just be my unfamiliarity with the whole legal process that, Mark's much closer to this than I am, so I trust Mark's judgment, but I also would always err on the side of, if there's even a glimmer of hope for a negotiation, I would err on the side of that before exercising eminent
I
domain.
still feel like we're offering that though. I don't
And that's
know.
where I'm a little unclear on it exactly.
I would.
And so, Kenny, I would say that comes into play in the timing of a complaint filing.
Yeah.
And so for me, if I'm acting on behalf of the council in those negotiations, that will always be my default, is to delay the filing of a claim that formally starts that eminent domain action. I've said that way too many times. That would be like the counsel from the council, that I'd say, look, we're not going to jump the gun on this. Like,
Okay.
we're going to make every effort possible to enter into these negotiations.
So the resolution is just that the city is approved to file a claim if the city chooses to at a
Exactly.
later point in time.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only thing I'll add is to Mr. Stoddard, thank you for coming in. Genuinely, I think
No, we
we
really
want to
appreciate
see this
We
resolved.
want you to be
You know
here
the
a lot.
history now of what we're bound to, because of previous agreements. So just really appreciate the effort to be here, and to Mr. Klein for coming as well. Yeah.
I don't know, yeah.
You
This
don't
isn't
get
a
three-
public
You get your
hearing.
time. You get your time to be heard.
Yeah. Okay. So we have a motion on the table.
And a second.
And
Marcus.
yeah, Emily and Mark, is that right? Okay, then I'll call for a vote on that. So Buzzy,
Aye.
Emily,
Aye.
Kenny,
Nay.
Mark,
Aye.
and Joni. Aye. Okay, so that motion carries. I appreciate you guys doing the work. I appreciate all of you for showing up. I think it's important for you to see the process that we're going through. And I hope you know that we'll act in good faith on this, because I think that's all of our intention here. Okay,
Mayor, if I will, one other thing, just there were a lot of general items raised, concerns regarding Elk Ridge Park from several individuals that were sent in today. If they could send those in and compile them, those are all concerns that we need to address at any time, regardless of what's taking place this evening. They're concerns that should be addressed, and so I would encourage them to continue reaching out, and if there's things that we can address, let's look at those.
And you
There
have
was
those.
there was some very, very specific claims that
That were legitimate too.
that were
I
very
think.
legitimate
Sorry,
from
I interrupted
Ms.
everyone,
Kelly
but-
King and Miss Irene Hola. I'm
Yeah.
sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. I really appreciate these. I would like to make sure that we're getting these addressed. Obviously, I don't know if now is maybe the best time to address them, but you have my email address. I would love for you to reach out further and discuss this more. I would love for us to meet with Alan to get this all addressed.
yeah.
Okay.
So
Thank you
I
so much
think-
for your comments, though. I appreciate this. We do take this very seriously.
Yeah, we can't help until we know. So thank you.
Since the motion has been ruled on, I want to reach out, I want to do all that. Am I all right reaching out directly to Madam Mayor and Alan, or should I reach out?
I think that's best.
Okay, I just want to make sure, if the council would like me to work with the
Thank
attorney, I will, otherwise I'll reach out.
Let's do that, and then attorneys once
If it's
it
necessary.
fails. But yes, thank you.
No attorneys, ironically, you're both attorneys.
Yeah, attorneys are the worst, honestly.
Thank you.
It's a lot of agree.
Okay, we'll move on to consider consider adopting the 2025 election officials and interlocal agreement for election services. My political advisor told me that this is the way to become popular politically, is this kind of hearing,
This
so.
document or another?
They went.
Scott, are you gonna speak to this one?
Everybody left.
I guess nobody cares about elections here. Okay.
Well, yeah, there's.
For the election officials,
We're also
this document just wants your approval that you're okay with the ones that I listed. I'm not going to be here on the first day of, well, the morning of candidate declaration. So I just need to make sure I have an election official that can accept that.
Okay.
And that's why I'm asking you to approve this, as well as approve the poll workers that are going to gather the ballots that we take over to the county.
Okay.
And then also in this folder is the interlocal agreement with Cache County. So they'll do the mailings and the collection, the opening and the counting of our ballots.
Okay. That's perfect. Any questions for Scott on
No.
this?
The only question I have is, can you remind me the times that the poll workers have to be there for acceptance of ballots?
It's just open office hours.
Okay,
And then we do have the drop box in the library parking lot. And those ballots will be collected at 8 o'clock on election day.
I'll make sure.
That'll be the final gathering of ballots. And also just so that you have,
No, hey, Zach, do you mind opening that door? We can't legally
This is
close
tentative,
that.
it's
and I
a
just want to make sure that you
crack open.
understand that ballots have to be in Cache County's hands or in the polls workers' hands by 8 o'clock election day, even if they are mailed.
So by 8 PM on election day, they have to be in the hands, even if they're mailed. So they need to be mailed the day before, correct? Or,
It could take 2, 3, or
oh,
4,
okay.
4 days for
This is
Yeah.
good information that I want to make sure we're
And
getting out to our citizens.
Also,
But-
just
but
go ahead.
any ballot box within Cache County, none of those will be collected until 8 PM on election day.
And it
So
doesn't charge the
don't mail
city
them
for
the day
postage.
before, put it in a ballot box.
I mean, I would much prefer them to do it that way, but I still want people to know that if they decide to mail it the day before, their vote's not
They
going to
may
get
not
counted.
arrive.
Yeah.
I want to make it very clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, so it's not the postmark day, it's
It's,
the day it
this is
arrives.
statewide, so there's
Yes.
going to be
Okay.
lots of
Mhm.
news on this point.
Still, along with those lines, it would be good if Scott, Emily, if you guys can remind us to send out frequent parlant messages before that, reminding people. This is, I bet you'll get 3/4 of the people that know via news and
Yeah.
every other outlet, but
It'll
you'll
be
have a
heavily-
quarter of the people that have
Yeah.
no idea, and that would be a shame for them, a quarter of the votes to not make it through.
I want everyone's vote counted.
And as I understand currently, our polling place is the county down at the fairground.
I mean, I'm willing to take the hardest motion of the night here.
Oh, wow. Go, Buzzy.
Go for it, Buzzy.
All right, move to approve, and then I just mess it up. Move to adopt the 2025 election officials interlocal agreement for election services.
Okay, motion by Buzzy,
Second.
second by Kenny. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Next, we'll consider a resolution amending the personnel policy to include Appendix C ACA measurement method. Scott, is this Alan?
Scott can take it. He's much better.
Alan Esquire? Alan Lucy Esquire?
This is just an addendum to our current personnel policy. Since we do qualify as a large employer, this is something we need to have in our personnel policy to follow for the ACA. Affordable
Sorry,
Care
Scott,
Act.
you said we qualify as a what employer?
Affordable Care Act.
Oh,
No,
This is so that we come into compliance with it.
we're over 50 FTEs, full-time employees, who qualify as a large employer
I
now.
see. Okay, thank you.
And this
Thank you.
document just allows us to, we could fall in and out of
Compliance.
fall
Or
in and
the
out of
FTE.
being a large employer or
Okay.
small employer.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
This document will allow us to handle it whenever we do
When
go
you
over
become-
those 50
okay.
FTEs.
Okay.
Okay,
That one.
can I get a motion on that?
Yeah, I motion to approve the resolution amending, is that how I need to say it? Okay, I would like to approve the resolution amending the personnel policy to include Appendix C ACA measurement method.
Second.
Okay, motion by Emily, second by Buzzy. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. It's for you. 6 years. Okay, we will next consider adopting a tentative municipal budget for fiscal year 2026. This feels calculated, Alan, like we're all spent.
Yeah. I will go very quickly through this, not in an attempt to hide anything, but because we're the only city or entity in the valley that does this. It's a state code. We're supposed to adopt a tentative budget at the first meeting in May. So that's what's coming before you. You will see a public hearing, though, for the adoption on the first meeting in June. And in an attempt to not feel disingenuous, they used to do this back in the day. They'd have the public hearing and approve the budget right after. Why are you having the public hearing if you're not listening? So what you'll have is a public hearing on June 4th, and then at the subsequent meeting, if I can do math, June 18th, that would be the consideration for approval of the budget. And according to Scott, who always keeps me up to date, we have to do it by that date. There's a cutoff in June where we have to have the budget approved by that date. This is a tentative budget. Just to go over it, some of the key things that we'll be talking about probably in June 4th meeting. If you look through this list in the overview, the tier 2 shortfall, we went over that last year. Just to explain that, that's the retirement employees that fall within a certain time range when they started with the city and a certain hybrid form of the URS. There's a shortfall now. And the state legislators somehow made it a motion that the cities couldn't make up that shortfall. So we don't make up the shortfall. We increased their wages so that we could increase their wages. Jumping down through here.
Just cause. Like, for no other reason. Yeah.
For no other reason. Until the state gets their act together, and when we're taking home 6-7% in interest, they need to start really managing those funds properly. Looking down through here, dispatch fees, we've already gone over that. Capital budget, there'll be several things that we'll go over on the June 4th meeting regarding multiple aspects of capital. Community development, we'll have the addition of a planner 1. I'm going over changes between the versions you have seen and what is here now. There are several other tiny minor changes, and I'll try and compile each one of those as well. These are the major changes or larger things. In this next fiscal year, we're going to have to discuss fee increases. As we went over some of these things, it was very clear that some of our fees are not up to par, and that's by talking with some of the public safety officials, by looking at our budget. We will have to look at some of those things to make sure that we are at least below or at average for some of those fee rates regarding services. What I'm talking about is like building inspection, subdivisions, fire inspection fees. Some of those we're significantly lower than other cities, and there's no reason for that. RDA, we'll go over that in a minute, so I don't jump the gun. The other thing that has been discussed this year is we'll update and probably do a draft budget narrative. We haven't done that in several years. We do have a quasi-budget narrative. The problem is that a budget narrative, it turns into one of those documents that collects a lot of dust. Things that are more applicable are the things that the city council has come up with. So strategic directives that you talk about, the action items, and catering those, and I may steal this from Mark, becoming one with our budget. So you bring it back and you tie it into goals. So you're actually achieving and working with the budget throughout the entire year, rather than it being something that collects dust throughout the entire year. So I'll hopefully have some things that we can bring before you that further clarifies those things. The other thing that we might want to do, a lot of cities do this either at the beginning of the fiscal year or in December, January, is a state of the city. So we might want to do that with several of the departments. Where are the public's funds going to? How are they being utilized? Are they being utilized properly? How do we compare as far as efficiency? I'm probably doing this in half-hearted effort to show that several departments in the city are the most efficient in the state, but is there room for improvement in each one of those different departments?
Would you give this or the mayor?
I will step back and have the department heads and the
okay.
mayor do each little section
Can
because
clap
I'll be a
during
little bit too over the top in bragging. Yeah, those types of things.
That's for you, Zach, because you're still here in this meeting.
But I wanted to ask you, are there any concerns or any questions regarding approving a tentative budget at this meeting or the budget changes that you would like to see in the next 2 weeks. Because we'll have 2 more opportunities right now, between now and June 4th, for budget changes on the current fiscal year and the proposed, and then additional opportunities between June 4th and June 18th to make final changes to both this fiscal year and the coming fiscal year.
The city council expenses for the parade are too much. I would much rather we lower that and solicit donations.
The
Like
what?
for me,
City council what?
the candy budget for the
Oh.
parade is too much. And I know there's one person you all want to blame for it. And I would be happy to solicit donations to help us get there.
Who are we blaming for it,
I
Emily?
think we know it's me. Fine, I'll say it. You all think I throw too
Buzzy-
much
Buzzy
candy.
isn't the most reserved when it comes to throwing
We're just
candy.
gonna
Buzzy's the one.
tie your right hand behind
Until
your
you
back.
hit a baby.
Can we up that issue?
We can look into it. It's worth it. We can apply for they're
grant.
actually like a quasi small grant.
No, it's
Like
We saved
I was
From a
more
local
thinking I would just donate some candy.
we saved $2 million on the well. We can just use that.
We did a lot of money.
That'll almost cover your
Yeah, that will
throw.
always
Yeah.
cover. This is the problem though. When those kids are so excited, who doesn't want to just throw candy
And
at
it's an
them?
election year for Emily.
Yeah.
so-
I need all the goodwill I can get.
There we go. That's a good point. We'll look into that. If there's any other points
I know it sounds dumb, but
with
that is.
substantial changes that could
Okay,
save us
sorry.
money, let's look at those.
You were correct. It's not substantial.
I do have, I appreciate this summary of everything here. What I've struggled with when I was reviewing this was just finding a nice, concise, like on the police commission, we have like, here's what the budget was last year, here's what it is this year, the overall budget, and here's the percentage increase. Our spreadsheet is broken out by department in each of the tabs, but is there like an overall tab
Wants
that
an
I'm just missing?
executive.
Yeah, there's a
Is it? I'm like,
Yeah,
I
over
somehow missed
here.
that.
You have a
Oh.
2026 balance sheet. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah,
The reason I
thank you.
say that is because I normally go over this at length at the next meeting, but it warrants a discussion right now. Hats off to the department heads. I'm just going to say that. From police, fire to every single one of our internal departments. Normally at this time of year, I'm still like 300,000 to 400,000 from balancing. It starts out usually at 700,000 to 800,000 over budget, even though they've tried to trim it down. And then I have to sit down each one and say, we can't do that. Can't do that. Let's just sit down and go over it. And we whittle it down. We're at 100,000. If you're below 100,000, if we can get it to 70 or 50, that is essentially balancing, because there's a surplus that always ends up happening with our depreciation fund. And so we're fine. But we will continue to whittle it down. But that's a great thought by Kenny. As you go over this, you can see just kind of this fiscal year. The reason that we keep it short and sweet and concise is because, again, my first year we had 19 audit findings. And one of the recommendations in order to not have audit findings was not to have 50 columns within your budget. It's to have 2 columns. And so in looking at that, you can go through, we've added additional columns. But that is one way that we've kept it down to 0 to 1 finding for the last 7 years.
Okay, thank you. I totally missed this tab. That
Oh,
was,
you're
that
fine.
would've
There's
been good.
20 others
It was
that are
Microsoft
hidden.
Outlook or
Yeah, if it
Excel,
was
you would've
Excel,
seen
I
it.
would have been fine.
Some of us just use sheets.
All right. Are we ready to adopt this tentative budget?
Mark?
I make a motion to adopt the tentative municipal budget for fiscal year 2026.
Second.
Mark, no reason to let Emily boss you around. Motion by Mark, second by Emily. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
I
Any opposed? Okay,
If you have other items, please email me in the next couple
Okay,
of weeks.
I do have one, sorry, I should have asked this before the vote, but this will be quick. If the budget comes out, and we already approved the property tax rates for the year for FY26. So if the budget came out exceeding that rate, we're bound by that rate still, right? So
are you saying like we could still raise taxes this year
we
if we
could,
wanted to?
okay, all right.
Like right? No.
No, we
No.
didn't.
Okay,
We would
sorry.
have to hold a hearing
Gonna
at the
say-
next meeting. We would have to notice that.
We
Okay,
didn't-
so
I was gonna say, I don't think we did. All
But-
we were supposed to do to
So
raise
you're
the
saying,
rates.
can we
I guess
cover a
we already have
shortfall?
rails, like, yeah, I guess I'm saying we already approved the tax rate. And so as long as the budget falls within the tax rate, I guess it's good that we're still proving it.
Well,
but
I think what it does is it just says our budget has to fall within.
Yeah,
our-
we have those rails set already.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So we go to a department and say, sorry, you have less money, or you
Now-
have to stay within.
Along those same lines, North Logan City's property tax rate is already below average in the county. But to point out one additional thing in talking with the other cities, they ask every year what city is talking about property taxes, who has a shortfall, what are they doing to address that? There are still 3 or 4 other cities that are going to hold the rate this year. Holding the rate is a 10 to 25% increase in their property
Oh,
tax.
This is a personal pet peeve of mine.
And so just keep that in mind. North Logan City is already
Other
low. We
citizens
will
not
go
riot.
very low at that point. below
Because
several
they
other
don't
cities.
understand, and neither do their
Did you, when I
leaders.
first came in here, I'm like,
It is unnecessarily complicated, but it is still, like, I hear it from multiple mayors. In fact, I don't know who actually does understand it amongst the
The truth
mayors.
and taxation stuff.
That really
Just what
scares me.
holding the rate means.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
Like that
So-
that's an increase.
I move that we convene as the North Logan City, do I have to exit this meeting?
Yes.
Okay, I move that we exit the North Logan City Council meeting and reconvene as the North Logan City Redevelopment Agency Board.
second.
Okay, motion by Emily, second by Buzzy. All in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. We are now convened as an RDA.
You have to
Alan, do you want to?
oh, sorry, we have to adopt the
Oh.
agenda. I move that we adopt the agenda.
Second.
Okay, motion by Emily, second by Buzzy. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
So there's just one proposed change. Oh, it's not in here. Because this is a copy. Sorry about that. In the Gateway Urban Renewal, I will put this in the next budget, but just so you're aware, I'm trying to propose that we look into doing a wayfinding, placemaking, signage study. That may sound odd, and it may sound very inconsequential, but as you look through every single study that we've been doing with the general plan and everything else, questions come up about our wayfinding and what are we doing as a city. A logical place to pay for this study would come out of our economic development or our Gateway Urban Renewal, which has an entrance sign. But you'd pay for a study that would say, this is a way to put together your entrance sign, give the city a brand or a design, and then every single entrance sign throughout the city, every sign that points to where certain locations are throughout the city, every park entrance sign, every park map at the beginning of the sign, they would all be consistent across the board. And this study would do that. And then it would take on private signage, where we are a little bit out of date on our signage for commercial businesses. I mean, we had debates about pole signs versus monument signs. Most cities have very specific requirements for their exterior signage. Now, that doesn't mean we have to go overly restricted, but it would just be consistent across the board. So that would be something that I would propose that would come out of the Gateway Urban Renewal RDA fund. But I'll give you a more concise presentation about that at the upcoming budget meeting, if that's okay. And you guys can
that
say
sounds
yay
good. I'm
or
really
nay.
excited about that, honestly. So
I like that
We
idea.
would take a portion of it out of park impact fees and a portion out of street impact fees as well, because we can't fully take it out of RDA. That would be illegal to put it in parks. So we'd have to take that portion of the study that applies to parks and that applies to roads out of those different departments.
okay, I love it.
Okay.
All right, any other discussion on this budget? Then I'd entertain a motion.
I'll move that we adopt the tentative FY26 budget for the North Logan Redevelopment Agency.
Okay, motion by
Second.
Kenny, second by Emily. Any further discussion? All in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously.
I motion
oh.
that we exit redevelopment agency board and reconvene as a city council.
Do we have to do that, or
Thought
can
we
we
could
just
go
go
right-
We
straight to
have to go
LBA?
back, we have to go right back into city
I don't think
council
so.
and then do it.
Let's do that to be safe. Okay,
have a
motion by
citizens.
Emily, second by
Second.
Buzzy.
Oh.
Okay,
Kenny.
all in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Okay, now we're city council. Emily, do you have another motion?
yeah, I motion that we convene as the local building authority to consider adopting a tentative financial year 2026 budget.
Okay, motion by Emily,
Second.
second by Kenny. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I'd entertain a motion to accept the LBA agenda.
Motion to accept the LBA agenda.
Motion by Buzzy,
Second.
second by Emily. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Alan, you want to go over this?
This is going to be very quick. This is the LBA Fund, Local Building Authority. This governs the loan that we received from the Community Impact Board for the library that is paid for through donations. So just that it doesn't change. It's pretty constant, but this is the tentative budget.
Can I put Lindsay Peterson, president, on my resume of the Local Building Authority? I'm just looking at my
can.
signature line. Okay, just making sure.
I'll allow it.
Okay, so any discussion on that, or I'd entertain a motion?
I motion we approve a tentative LBA budget for financial 2026.
Okay, motion by Emily,
Second.
second by Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. We have officially concluded our action items. Congratulations to all of you.
Made it.
And Joni, you have my permission at least to drop out for work session, but it's entirely up to you. You're invited either way. We will move on to lessons learned at the mid-year
You need
UTAL
to
League.
exit.
Oh, sorry.
Motion to.
Motion by
adjourn from
Buzzy.
LBA and rejoin city council.
Okay,
Second.
second by Emily. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. And then now we're in the work session. All right, let's talk about lessons learned at the mid-year Utah League of Cities and Towns Conference.
This is up to you guys. This is Mark I put first because he was the first to respond, so hats off to Mark.
You got what I said.
Teachers' pet.
Don't be a Karen.
Ask me questions, but that's what I thought. Can't be Karens. I mean, I took a different vibe. They really want to work with the legislature and find solutions. They found that if they just go and say, how dare you, we don't accomplish
I mean,
anything.
they're 100% right.
Yeah, and that they have found ways to work within the margins and find some consensus on matters, and I think they had a more effective result in this last session than they had in the prior session.
Yeah, and I think they kept encouraging us to have good relationships with our representatives, and I think we're fortunate in that way. Like, I feel like I can reach out to Chris Wilson; he's very responsive. Mike Peterson's really responsive. Even like legislators who, like Casey Snyder, who aren't in our, who don't technically represent us. Both, I have a great relationship with Casey, and then also Jason Thompson, who was a former mayor. So I think we're in a great place. We can always do better. Like, I think we can always invite him to city council. So I'm all ears on that kind of stuff.
They talked about they're getting pressure 365 from lobbyists to do something the next time around, and if we can get them, we're going to have to stay engaged with our legislature 365.
Would it be inappropriate? I feel like sometimes, especially with housing, the work sessions with the planning commission, to me, would feel like a better opportunity to invite our state representatives. Would that be an option? Just because I feel like they would get and see how we are trying our hardest to obey and abide by the state regulations while at the same time maintaining the character and nature of our city.
We can certainly invite them.
Would they have appetite for like a semi-annual meeting here where they would come and have a workshop like that, or work session?
Are you talking about like them being a part of the workshop?
Or at least observing?
I think we already have that kind of set up with the planning commission, so I think it's just a matter of inviting them.
Yeah, right. And that's why I mean, is the appetite on their end to accept the invitation?
That's a great question. I don't know.
Okay.
I feel like though, if they can come in and see the good faith efforts we are making to try to do what they're asking us, I think that will go a long way. And, saying like, hey, it's not that we're saying like everything you do is bad, but like, man, you see how hard we're working. Can we get credit for our good work?
Can I also just say, like, Casey Snyder single-handedly, like, really was the designated person to speak against a really terrible bill for the cities this last year, and it was at great personal cost to him. So I think that I think and I feel like Senator Wilson, he'll have a conversation, but I think where I've seen that breakdown is only, I think the where we can make up ground is just encouraging them to reach out to us and say like, hey, what do you think of this bill? That to me is the last frontier of it, is to just, because there were 2 sessions ago that I was like, I mean, just ask the cities, like, we deal with this, like whether it's building inspections, whether it's salary increases, those kinds of things.
I would think they would be more responsive to executive summaries of things that we've accomplished so that they can analyze it and evaluate it in 25
I
seconds
definitely think
and see
that's a
where we
great
are.
idea. I like that, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, I think either way, I think it's, why not extend the invite to the workshops, but I think those are all good ideas.
The other thing we have going for us is each of our legislators that the mayor's been working with, the council members, they're not kind of the mainstream push from the legislature to just drown the state in housing.
Yeah.
They're more of a appropriate approach of looking for methods. What I'm just getting at is they're not developers, any one of them, and they would work with us on any of these items. And so, yeah, reaching out in any number of methods that Kenny's brought up, that the mayor's brought up, would all be appropriate to keep them in the loop and provide them key points. It's so much that they have to go over, just provide them some key points of concern.
Yeah. Okay. Do we want to go to Scott next, just because that's your next on the list?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't attend this conference. That might have been Scott Bennett, but I do want to
whoops.
opine on the housing thing, because the APA conference was in town last week, and the housing discussion I thought was interesting because Steve Waldrop was there. He's the state housing czar or advisor to the governor is his official title, but he had alluded to the fact that the moderate income housing plan is likely going to be going to the wayside this next session. And they're replacing with a statewide housing plan. And the statewide housing plan is being drafted as we speak. But how that plan actually plugs into local planning, and if there's going to be incentives or if there's going to be sticks, we don't know. But at the end of the day, there's a big shakeup coming down the line with regards to housing. So this would be a good interim session for us to be engaged with our representatives, making sure they understand what we've been doing locally, and also just understand, how that change from moderate income housing plan to statewide plan might affect us.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Devil's in those details for sure.
Yep.
I'll give you my takeaways. I thought it was really interesting. They had 3 mayors, one from, I can't remember. But I can't remember. Oh, it was Draper, South Salt Lake, and Santa Clara, that just kind of talked about their takeaways from public service. And it really kind of just reaffirmed to me that we have such a great council, and there's so much that you can accomplish when there's trust there and there are good intentions. They were saying that one of the council members is in Zoom jail. Like, he is not allowed to come to council in person because, and she didn't elaborate on like what exactly he did.
Come on.
Which city was that? Did you say?
South Salt Lake.
Oh, that's where I grew up. That's awesome.
Well,
That
go
makes
look
sense
at
then,
which
Leslie.
council member is only there as a floating head.
We call it South Salt Lake Central.
So I thought that was good, and I thought like that was really true when they were talking about what they would tell themselves in their first year of service, like to just maybe take things less personally and be less intense, like just, advocate fiercely for things that you feel need to happen, but also just kind of maybe take it less personally, which is sometimes hard in politics, right? Like you don't always get the pats on the back for doing the hard thing, but I thought those were good points.
A quick note about that, Mayor. At each city managers conference, they have a session called Dealing with Difficult Council and Mayors. And so every time they have that, I literally just wander in the hall. I don't have any reason to attend that. So thank you to each one of you. And it's always been that way with North Logan City.
Sure.
Alan's like, I actually have this one council member that asks the stupidest
Alan has
questions.
extensive
How can I,
But-
with a straight face, say, good question?
Yeah.
Alan, be
Alan
honest, are
actually
you on the
speaks at it.
panel?
Yeah, he's on the
Yeah.
panel.
Alan's like, so this is what I do.
Get
It's a
this.
lot of Diet Dr. Pepper.
No, they literally have council members, and each one of those that one council member is suing the city administrator. They have council members that are being sued, that have started riots. And so it's how do they deal with those? And then as we talk about it, I just sit there smiling. I was like, I hats off to you guys. Even if you have a differing opinion, it's always been very cordial. So thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. So hats off to you guys. I appreciate that too. I thought the home ownership stats were really crazy.
That's insane.
I think the state's really trying to focus on home ownership. And I thought Arthur Brooks was really a really good keynote. Just to kind of just talk about
I hear that.
like withdrawing from the vitriol online. Like, and I think we see this a lot with constituents that people get riled up. And I liked that he just said, look, stop consuming it altogether. And, you know, and I think you get a lot, at least in my feed, it's like, if you stay silent, then this is on you. And I think Arthur had a different perspective that, anyway, and he says, look for contempt and run toward it with love. So he just said, you know, when you get contempt from someone, to try and see the good and to try and see the origin of, you know, why people are angry about things. Can I just add one more to this? Because we had this person come from the Utah League of Cities and Towns and present at the Mayor's Association dinner, and which was last Saturday, and they have what's called Real Day, REAL, and it's a movement they're trying to start where the first of every month that you take an entire day off social media. Like, so there are parameters to it, like you can still text and call and email and that kind of thing, but you just take a break. And they were really like the feedback that they've gotten from different cities who've done this and school districts is that people, it's actually the youth or the young people who are kind of leading the way on this and saying, thank you. Like, this, I didn't know till I'd stepped back from it, how much it was impacting my perspective. And so just to have kind of that fast for one day was huge in like their overall mental health. So that's something that I'll probably post about and post via the city about. And Kenny, I mean, can you step back? I don't know.
Yeah, that's right.
Like,
It's tough.
it's,
I'll figure out.
I'm like, what's
Get
Kenny
somebody
got to
else to
say
do a
today? But I thought it was great. And they said, look, this isn't just the city's burden. You know, like, reach out to, I think the best way to reach out to is our youth city council and even the student councils at the high school to say, like, is this something that you guys can get behind? Really easy. Like, it doesn't require a whole lot to implement, but that's probably what I will do, at least on the city's social media, is just kind of post that in advance of June 1st. So.
Mayor, can I just 30 seconds on a study I read about where they polled youth and said, how much would we have to pay you to get you to agree to not use social media? And the answer was averaged out to something like $50. And then they said, how much would you pay to if you could be king for a day, to remove social media completely from everyone? And the answer was like $150. So a lot of people don't even want to be on social media, but it's kind of like a FOMO thing, like everyone else is. So they feel like they have to be to stay in the loop on that social context.
So I love that positive peer pressure, right? To just say, like, please just step back.
Yeah,
So
I like it.
So I can send you those materials. I think it's really great, or you can go to their website. All right, Alan, do you want to go?
Just really quickly, I think the mayor's already spoken about this one. They did a long session on this as the city managers about designated public forums versus limited public hearings. The difference is in some cities, they've had open mic night. And what I mean by that is at the beginning of every meeting, they just leave it open. Those were the worst things I've ever seen. They violate every standard of the Open and Public Meetings Act, and every council member or mayor that has tried to restrict an individual reading like extremely obscene things.
Let's look up
And
the LA,
yeah,
Los Angeles, City of Los Angeles open mics.
it's bad.
It is obscene. Like there should be an explicit
It's-
warning on the seminar.
Like
Yeah,
they
you
do it
can't
on
even
purpose.
watch the
I
seminar
know.
without feeling extremely uncomfortable. I hated every minute of it. So what it is just so you guys know and so you're aware, when someone gets up in a public hearing here in North Logan City, they're always in a limited public hearing. What that means is they need to roughly speak about the topic on hand. And you can limit their time to 3 minutes, which is what we do. But just so you know, these are the types of things. Now, they can say whatever they want about you, council members or staff, because it relates to the topic, most likely, as long as they're not threatening in nature. And so just remember that. But that's why we have limited public hearings in North Logan City. They always emphasize that regardless of what type of public hearing it is, the space to get to a resolution on anything is not in a public meeting. That is a horrible situation. It is in a discussion. It's via email. It's meeting with staff. It's meeting with city council members. It's going over those things. So just so you know, that's the emphasis on every one of those. If we needed more information, the city attorney from Harriman gave the presentation. He did a fantastic job. But yeah, he's pointing out in each instance where a city council limited someone, they lost that in court. So just be very careful that we have limited public hearings. And so unless they're threatening in nature, the city council really, you just let them talk till the end and don't engage. We don't argue with them.
I was talking to a mayor who was like, but they can't insult you personally. And I'm like, they sure can. They can say about whatever they want.
Yep.
Constitutional right.
Yeah, that is. It doesn't restrict that. That relates to the topic. Anywho, going through this, a disproportionate business license fee, we need to look into this for police services. We've gone over this, we've talked about this, but we need to update it. We may not have to have a good landlord licensing program. I'm going to look into that a little bit more. And then an annual survey, they stress the importance of that. I think Emily's stressed the importance of that. The only reason we didn't do one this last year is because I think people had survey fatigue from Scotty P, just wearing them down with general plan and city
As usual,
center,
we know who to blame.
rec center coming up. I mean, we're going to have a lot of surveys going out, but in a given year, a normal year, a regular year, remind me about that. We do need to do that at some point during the
You
year.
steal questions from American Fork. What were their questions that you really liked there?
American Fork is just known for someone that they paid a lot of money for their survey, but once they've paid a lot of money for their survey, it's a public document. And so American Fork was very just good to work with, and they said, yeah, you can come and steal our questions. But they were one of the original ones that paid a lot of money to Qualtrics and Y2 Analytics to do the survey.
I like that.
So
how many questions? I'm curious if they've said this. I know we should have a survey. Did they give an idea of like how many questions is what you should be shooting for?
each city is a little bit different, but it's usually about 5 minutes. If you can't do it in 5 to 10 minutes, then your survey, people aren't going to take it.
Yeah, okay, just wanted to make sure.
But remind me about that. We do need to do that, get feedback from citizenry. It's fantastic to have that feedback and course correct if we need to.
Okay.
Sorry, those are just quick items.
And then I didn't see Joni's. Joni, did you want to add anything?
Is she still?
I sent it to Alan, and some of you covered some of the things that were there. I just really wanted to follow. I mostly just trying to be positive, trying to work through some of the difficult decisions that we're going to have to make. I mean, I'm just listening to all of you guys tonight. It's kind of hard to hear you. I don't know if you guys can hear me very clearly, but from some of the things I could hear, I was just really impressed how thoughtful your comments were. And I know we've had several discussions amongst all of each other and with our people in the community. And so tonight, I'm sorry that I wasn't there, because I feel like this was the night that I wanted to be there to help with this one.
No, Joni,
How well everybody did.
Joni, we really appreciate you attending remotely while you're out of town. Like, that's a big sacrifice. And we can hear you.
Yeah, well, I think those League of Cities is great for us to attend when we can, because it does introduce us to people that are great resources for us when we have difficult situations. And It just was really nice to be able to reconnect with different mayors and city council members and, share some of the things. Obviously, we can't share, extremely personal things, but just it's nice to be able to talk to people and say, how are you guys handling some of these things with growth and, and also not being able to share some of the things that you like to the residents. And so we think worse and we're like, this is not what any of us would ever want to have to deal with. But I do feel like I'm really impressed with the level of content that they bring and the people they bring in to share stories and examples and give advice. So I'm always happy to go. I love going.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Joni. Okay, let's get updates regarding the North Logan City General Plan and City Center Master Plan.
Okay, so just a couple of updates. Planning Commission tomorrow will be looking at additional red lines to Title 12C. That's our zoning ordinance. We've been working on several red lines over the last couple of months, and we'll continue to be working on red lines probably for a few more as we're working to integrate our general plan policies into the code as a whole. And in addition to the work session that the Planning Commission will be having tomorrow, our city center master plan consultant is also working on the form-based code that will be used for the city center design regulations. So that we anticipate a draft within the next 4 to 6 weeks, maybe a little bit sooner. And so I would imagine sometime in June, we'll try to have a first glimpse at that first draft. But then we'll move on to other elements in the code as well. So if the public wants to follow along, those red lines have been posted to the general plan website, the plan is nlcplan.org. So if you want to hop onto that website, scroll down just a little bit, all of those red line documents are available. They are cloud-based Google documents, so those documents will continue to be modified as we work our way through. But if you'd like to leave a comment, you can do so right in the document itself. If you'd like a physical copy, come and grab me. I'll print you off a copy. But we're continuing to work through that element of the plan's implementation. And as far as the city center master plan goes, the city is continuing to discuss with property owners on potential options to move forward under a master development agreement. To see if we can, get all the property owners on the same page to develop the property as the cohesive plan would suggest. So those are just ongoing discussions in the background.
Scott, I just wanted to tell you what a great job you did at the conference presenting the city center master plan with I can't think of any of their names now. I've lost, but you guys all did a great job. It was really great to see you up there representing North Logan so well.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Let's get updates about the water capital improvement project.
Just ask Scott a quick question. On my message, will you make sure the link is right? I copied it from what the website that I was on, but I just want to make sure we get the link that you want people to go to.
This is your
the message for the newsletter.
Message. Yeah, I'll double check it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Remind me about that, Scott, if you don't have a copy of that before we send the draft.
All right, Zach, take it away.
Okay, water capital improvements. We just approved the bid for the reservoir. So we will be issuing that notice of award, getting the contractor coming out probably tomorrow. He had a scheduled end date of June 9th. We're going to push and see if he can be done by May 1st. The pipeline with the two separate projects that were kind of in one, we gave him a larger window, but now that we know who's doing it, we're going to try to tighten that up.
Sorry, when would he would start when and end when?
He's going to start as soon as possible.
And then end by May 1st of next year.
That's what we're going to push.
Okay.
As soon as possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
No,
all of it as soon as possible.
Sorry, when you said
yes.
the dates, I was like, June 9th of this year.
Sorry.
I was like,
26.
wow, who are these guys? Can
26.
they build me something?
Yeah.
You probably don't want a tank that's built in.
You know what? I don't care. It's like that fast.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
What do we think? So we think that's going to start in May, you said, this month?
Yeah, we're going to issue the notice of award tomorrow. And then as soon as they can mobilize and get here, we'll start them.
The good thing, the reason Zach's lining it up that way is because over the winter months, Zach's not gonna like this. He can just take a nap. I mean, running the water system, with the amount of water people use over the winter, June, July, and August, he just stays up 24 hours monitoring the water system to make sure it is where we need it to be. And so having that ready by next summer is just, that's absolutely vital to our water system.
And then, other than that, the treatment plant upgrade, they are almost finished with the shoring system. If anyone's driven up Green Canyon, they see the big 30-foot hole and the concrete plaster that's around. That's just to hold the mountain back. We'll start the walls. We need about 10 days, and then they'll start erecting the walls. So that should be done, completed, and the plant back online by Halloween. So
Awesome. Thank you,
we're
Zach.
moving.
Okay, thanks, Zach. And then updates on the community center.
Looks good.
The donation brochure.
I'll just give you quick updates. So you can see the building, where they're at right now. They're starting some of the exterior flat work for concrete. They're wrapping up a lot of the utilities on the inside, and they're starting a lot of the framing on the inside to wrap up some of those buildings. The key element that we're looking at right now is we started the fundraising campaign. It's kind of a two-pronged approach. One is just a general request for funds, and they get to put their name on a leaf or on the trunk of the tree or on a bird on the wall with the Flights of Learning exhibit. That's a key to the library. So they've started that, and we've actually seen Venmo donations coming in through the Friends of the Library and other things to name those specific items.
You're gonna do different sizes of roosters on
Touche, Mark. But the
it'd be kind of cute.
The other element, though, is sitting down with large sponsors that want to put their name on a room, put their name on a large rooster on the wall, those types of elements. And that's the one that we're going to start reaching out to. We've identified a list of several businesses, individuals who would probably be interested in donating. And so we'll start that in the coming months.
There was talk at the library. There was a suggestion that the trees, the birds, all the things were going to be made out of a vinyl. And there was an ask if it could be a really classy looking material and not necessary.
I think it'll actually be a metal.
Okay, thank you.
I can't
think we
guarantee
might,
that.
No, there was I thought of, if we're going to ask and do this really nice building, can we make sure that whatever that is made out of is a very nice material so it looks as good as we would like it to. That was the only thought from library board.
Yeah, if someone's going to donate a few $1,000s, I don't think we're going to put a Live, Laugh, Love vinyl thing on the wall. So let's.
I think it was like more, I don't know how it was described, and I'm probably getting it wrong, and we can discuss this later, so.
No, I need to make sure of that, and I can get back to you.
Whatever it is, it's just nice.
Perfect. Those are just the general updates right now, and we'll continue to look at the final designs for the landscaping out front as well that we're putting together.
Okay, let's get reports. Yes, sure. We'll have to look for that. Thanks, Russell.
Yeah, the previous library staff, they did allow that to disappear, unfortunately. We don't know where it's
Like,
at this point.
we still don't know.
Yeah, we don't know where the library staff ran off with that. It was about 7 or 8 years ago.
We'll try.
I think they just misplaced it when they were doing some modifications.
We, at least maybe with renovations, maybe we'll find it in a corner somewhere.
Russell brings up a very key point, though, that this one is not going to be a plaque or anything else. It will take up the entire wall.
Yeah,
So
it's
the
like an
wall is
art
going to be
piece, kind
names
of.
all over the entire wall. So picture that
It's
wall,
harder to
the whole
lose.
wall being taken up.
Do you have a picture of it, Russell? Is there a way to recreate it?
We can reach out to the
We could
library
maybe
staff and
find a picture of
Yeah.
it somewhere.
There are people who've been around a while, so. Okay, let's do staff reports. You, nothing. You. Scott 1, Scott 2.
Just as a reminder, candidate declaration is June 2nd through June 6th. And then if we have 2 or less mayor candidates and 4 or less city council candidates, then we can decide if we're gonna cancel the primary election, but we'll just see what comes in that first week of June.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Alan.
Just really quick going over a list of events coming up. Michael Scott Race for the Cure for Rabies. That is this Saturday at 9 a.m. at Green Canyon High School. Radar trail.
Awesome.
Oh,
really? Yeah,
Dang
gee.
it.
Fast you're on like Michael Scott. So
Nice.
thank you, police department, for
I
that.
need the police to come behind me so I can get a real high number there.
Are you, are people, oh, never mind. I'm not even gonna say.
Okay.
Proceed.
I will be the slowest.
It's gonna be like,
Proceed.
So
you know,
they've got a pretty full lineup already for sign up. I think they
Three
got 8 or 9.
things.
You can do day of registration as well.
I was
What if
gonna
it won't
show up like
register your
Andy
speed?
with,
You can
know,
just go participate. For you.
If I'm going so
Exactly.
slow, it doesn't
And I figured
It's
out
not
what
really a
this
run.
was.
You'll run from station to station and complete an obstacle there related to the office. Memorial Day. This is for everyone. This is up at the cemetery, May 26th, 11 a.m. to noon. This is one of those things where every year we have compliments coming in where people say, "Oh, I didn't know about this, but I'm so glad I attended." It is the only Memorial Day event in the entire valley. I think a few other cities have like a prayer or a flag raising. That's it. But we have a
It's so
full-blown
great.
It's really good.
presentation. It's really pretty. We have a veteran speak. We'll have a few other musical numbers. We'll have taps. The mayor usually speaks. And then we have bagpipe music playing.
Unless you want to.
A few musical numbers that take place. It's really well done. Hats off to everyone for putting that together. Library reading kickoff is June 2nd.
It is the second you verified with
6
him.
to 8,
Okay.
yeah.
Then I somehow wrote the wrong time down.
What's, oh, okay.
Alan had the right time. But
Okay.
just going through here.
Sorry, Alan. I get things wrong too.
Then there's Touch a Truck on June 21st. That is a huge event that John Mills helps put together. The rec department helps him out with that. There's a movie in the park. You start getting into all the summer events after that. So just keep those on your radar.
What's the movie July 24th?
They're looking at Lilo and Stitch.
Oh, fun.
The new one?
Fuzzy.
No,
No, because
Fuzzy's not a
the
fan.
live.
I don't know. What?
Okay. The two things that we do need to organize with the council, though, so you guys need to attend all these events, but in addition to that, we may do a library visit, so you guys can just see the progress and see kind of the vision of what's taking place. Maybe I'll just email you and say what is a good time for you to do that with the librarian, with Trent. He's very familiar. He can take you through and just discuss some of the things that are taking place.
I know I know the library is incredibly busy in the summer with their events. Would that be the best time to meet with them?
He said it was okay, as
Okay,
long as we do it in the next few weeks before they
then-
get into the busy
Brent wouldn't
time.
lie.
But the other one is the water department. We did this a few years ago.
Get to go.
Fun.
Yeah, I didn't get to go either. but
Can
I
we
wanted
invite
to.
Craig too? He
Yeah,
was so
he can just
fun.
come up
I heard
and-
Craig.
Craig was telling so many stories.
Yeah.
that-
What? No, well, I'll send it out and just see what works for you guys to go up there. But it's a good opportunity to go up Green Canyon, because Green Canyon's history is tied at the hip to everything in North Logan. The water, the Temple Quarry. They call it the Temple Quarry. It's the Temple Quarry, Old Main Quarry, Tabernacle Quarry, Tithing House, every other building. County Courthouse has elements of that quarry. Those are the reasons North Logan was established, and we can go up and see all of those different items. And it's just a lunch visit. You go up, we have lunch, we cruise up to the top, cruise back down, and go over key items.
Are we
It is
sh-
incredibly pretty back there.
Are we
too.
shooting for
We'll plan
summer
around
or
you.
like
Summer,
fall
it'd
or
be like
something?
June or July.
Okay. That just seems like a hot time to go up there, but
It's nice up in Green
It's actually
Canyon.
really
okay.
cool.
It is. It's surprisingly like temperate up there. So
Can.
So just to that point, the original Pioneer Days, North Logan was the only Pioneer Day in the valley for the first 100 years of this valley.
not only the best, but
Not
the
only
only.
best, but the only city that did it.
With the
But
most
the
parks
first
facing that bend.
20, 30 years, they actually went to the top of Green Canyon to celebrate it because it was so hot. On July 24th, they would go up to the top of Green Canyon, hang out, some would camp. It was a really
Nice.
cool festival up there. at the top
We
of
should
Green
resurrect that tradition.
Yes.
Sure. But we'll go over that. These are just upcoming events. I want to get your guys' feedback. I'll send out just some feelers to see what works for your schedule.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. You guys don't, I'm just offering this, but we always can go into closed session to discuss like the negotiations surrounding the Klein property. I'm offering that to you guys tonight. I feel like I have a general sense of like what's reasonable, but we don't have to notice up a closed session. But if you guys feel like that's necessary, if you want to talk about it, then we do have that option.
I'd rather see what they do first.
I was gonna say, I'd much rather, and you understand what's reasonable, Alan understands what's reasonable. I believe in your negotiation power. What do you
Okay.
guys think?
Yeah, I'm good to wait until we get an offer maybe and then have that discussion.
Okay.
I think that's the ball is in their court to present something. So until we have something to talk about.
Let's not preempt it. Okay, sounds good. Then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by
Second.
Betsy,
Second.
sec-
Third.
second by Emily. All
Aye.
in favor?
I,
Any opposed?
Mark's going on. Late. Good to see
No,
you all.
I'm so glad you came straight from the airport.
Oh man, that was a rough. Hey, Kenny. you
Thanks,
see that
Joni.
flight out of Denver tonight? I was just telling
Hey,
Lindsay.
Joni, who sent you that email that you just